right, we're back. I think we've actually got Andrew. Let's see how the sound quality is on the Skype. Andrew, are you still there, buddy?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, we'll try it like this. The only issue that we've got is every once in a while we'll lose a connection. And if that happens, we'll just bear with me. And what we'll do is you have the ability, I guess, to call a phone number. Take this number down, and if anything happens to me and I lose connection, I want you to call back.
I see the number, the 858-683-1309.
Yes, call back on that one if anything happens to the connection, because it will take me a minute or so to reestablish everything. But anyway, Andrew, we had a great conversation last time when you came on Nsearch Radio, and I was already on the distilled water regimen and everything, but we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we haven't really talked about, in general, when you woke up. When did you actually wake up that we've been lied to our entire lives, that there was something called the New World Order that's trying to make our health go down the drain and basically make us sick and feed us GMO garbage and all that stuff? When exactly did you really wake up to the full magnitude of what we're facing?
Sometime roughly in 2006. In 2001, 2003, we got incredibly discouraged by the inability to stop our government from murdering people across the world. And so my wife and I decided to just, be the best humans we could, to put our heads down and focus on being good people of the highest consciousness. And sometime around roughly 2006, I think because so many documentaries started coming out on the internet, first saw, I think it was a thing about fluoride that really is an easy one to wake somebody up, because you can look in any old dictionary and see that fluoride used to be completely listed as a known poison of horrific qualities. And then when you see that they try to calmly argue that it's good for you, and when it's known in the history books that they put it in the Nazi concentration camps and the Russian gulags to suppress people's desire to fight for their freedom because it numbs the pineal gland in the center of the brain, it diminishes people's desire to fight for their life, it makes it easy to believe in conspiracies. Especially when you look around at society and see the degradation of people and the just the sheer horrible state that people are in physically and mentally, and that Americans don't protest in the streets even when our government is murdering people on a mass scale and spraying our skies with chemicals.
That's right, with the chemtrails.
Yeah. So that we immediately shut off the city water and dug a well. And my wife is a painter, and I was the one doing the cooking for the family, and I was in charge of, trying to keep us, and we had two teenage girls at the time, trying to keep everybody healthy. And so it was kind of just that general awareness of food that, after learning about fluoride and starting to actually open my eyes and see the chemtrails in the air, it started me on a path of digging furiously into what the truth is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when did you actually start really getting into the distilled water, which we'll talk about next, and doing your research? Because your website over at AquariusTheWaterBearer.com, it's got a tremendous amount of information and research that you've done. So I was just wondering when you actually started, thinking about that. Because if you really think about it, I mean, I've heard so many people, even when I tell them about it, they're like, "Oh, don't do that. It'll hurt you. It's going to hurt your body. It's going to take minerals out." Things like that.
Yeah, because they're just constantly espousing the lines of the powers that were, and this is all knowledge coming from institution and bricks and mortar buildings. And those are the very things that got us in all this trouble in the first place. So in general, a good rule of thumb is to take whatever the powers that were pushing and head in the exact opposite direction. And you're much more apt to find blatant truth that way.
That's right. Yeah, because they lie about everything. They lie about the vaccines that actually make you sick. They lie about chemotherapy being the only thing you can do for your cancer. I mean, we know that. Dr. Colwell's curing 92%, and the chemotherapy cure rate's 2%. And yet they want to tell you that you better go take your chemotherapy because guess what? Obamacare is only going to cover chemotherapy. So you might have, I mean, it's just like the Nazi ovens, you know, instead of going into the oven and getting fried, you just go to the doctor and either take a vaccine or go to the doctor and get your chemo. Because, you know, that's what killed my dad is chemotherapy. I mean, after that first one, he was never the same. And he lived right at 4 years, a little over 4 years, which is what they say is if the cure rate of living over 5 years if you get the chemo is less than 2%. And if you do nothing, if you do absolutely nothing for your cancer, your cure rate that you'll never die of the cancer or whatever is 27%. So it's 10 times better to do nothing than to do the chemo. But you got these fraud MDs that really should be roasting in hell for being so negligent. I don't really, you know, fault anybody for being brainwashed because we all were. But when they're exposed to it and somebody tells them about, hey, check out Dr. Colwell, check out his cure rate, and they sit there and say, oh, no, you can't cure cancer with anything but chemotherapy because that's what I learned in my Rockefeller school. That's what I'm talking about. That's a criminal, absolute monster that's more concerned about making his Lexus payments than he is on making you better.
Yeah, and you know, you're right. It really is. In general, it's not the doctor's fault. They are. It's the Rockefellers, Carnegies, and Mellons who control the purse strings to the funding to the institution. If you don't teach the party line, then the funding gets withdrawn. And plus, these doctors have got their whole lives, their $4,000 a month mortgage payment and their $600 a month car payments and their 4 kids going to college. They got all that stuff on the line, and they've been brainwashed to the nth degree, and they've got their whole livelihood on the line. And yeah, you should be in favor of humanity versus dollars.
Right.
But they've been brainwashed the most, and proof of that is that they have the shortest lifespan.
Yeah.
They on average die at 52, where the average American dies 20 years later at 72, and it's because they follow their own teachings the most. They pop the most pills. Most doctors have drawers full of pills at home because they get all these freebies and they can write themselves endless scripts or have their friends write them scripts.
Yeah.
They're just in terrible shape.
Now, just out of curiosity, have you ever woke up a doctor about the miracle benefits of drinking a gallon to a gallon and a half of distilled water, or have they just basically just called you crazy when you've told them about it? If you've had interaction with doctors about this,
I haven't had. I do know one that was quite laughing about it, and even shushed his own daughter out the door when she brought over 15 gallons of distilled water that she had written, a handwritten love poem on each gallon to bless it with her intentions. Oh. He shushed her out the door, kind of laughing at her, but, pretty much petting her on the head. Isn't that nice, dear? And just recently, he had a massive heart attack. He's still living. I'm sure he's still not drinking pure water. And it's funny, I know 2 other friends that have had heart attacks, and it is only after they have heart attacks that it is somewhat of a common thing to hear of heart attack doctors prescribing their patients, oh, you should drink distilled water. I know 2 people now that have been encouraged by their doctors to drink distilled water after the heart attack.
Well,
why not before?
Yeah. Well, that's good news. And like I was saying before we brought you on, I've kept a little journal of my blood pressure and everything, and I was taking it really regular for a while there. And and I stopped taking it, but before the show, I just wanted to take it because I hadn't taken it in a while. And my what is it? The systolic is the second reading, I believe. That was the lowest it's been, and I was very happy with that. What it's showing me is that it seems like, and you can tell me what does your research say about blood pressure and the arteries? Does it seem to draw out, maybe minerals that have built up on those arteries? Because I could feel that my blood pressure, I just felt, internally that it seemed to be lower, but until I actually took the measurement tonight, I didn't have any, actual measurements to say, but I was very happy with that. What has your research said about it?
Everybody that starts drinking the gallon a day has all three blood, the basic blood measurements go down: blood pulse rate, cholesterol, and pressure. All will drop from horrific high levels to even what you could call athlete's level of quality. And yeah, it is the plaque inside the veins and arteries in the heart, which are ancient deposits, after 4, 5, 6 decades, 7 decades of eating garbage and not rinsing out the machine.
Yeah.
The plaque in there is building up, and the passage is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And of course, this doctor had a heart attack. He had one of his 4 main arteries was 100% blocked. And Western medicine's cure, quote unquote cure for that, is to drive a tube up there, a stent, and expand a balloon with a metal mesh around it to compress the plaque.
Huh.
not to remove it, but to squish it back to the side so it becomes even harder.
Yeah.
And so that, when you have smaller and smaller veins, your pressure is going to go up.
Right.
And when you start having that garbage rinsed out by pure water, the pressure drops because it's not as tight in there.
Well, I guess we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, but for those that did not hear your first show, why don't you just go over, when you found out about distilled water? And by the way, guys, distilled water is the same exact thing as rainwater. So, that's what's so funny is when you tell people, oh, drink distilled water, and they say, oh no, that's going to hurt you. And it's like, wait a second. You're saying that you wouldn't drink rainwater, pure rainwater that had no pollutants in it at all? And they're like, I don't know. So tell people when you got started on researching this and what exactly you recommend and what your research has shown, and talk about some of the things that people have seen as far as when they get on this regimen, I guess.
Okay. Well, I've been studying health for about 10 years because I was cooking for the family and trying to make us feed us as healthily as possible. Maybe about 7 years ago, I hope this didn't bother anybody, but we're going to go on. I'm going to show you the importance of it. I was studying urine therapy, and I studied for 5 years straight, and I read over 1,000 testimonials. And in case anybody hear me, I did say urine, and I said urine therapy. And I bought over 20 books from around the planet because I couldn't figure out how urine was doing the incredible things that it does. And anywhere in the Bible that you see references to the water of life or rivers of living water, if you understand that that's urine, they start to make a lot more sense. And we'll explain as we go. Please don't get frightened by the term. I'm going to tie it into distilled water. None of the urine therapy books explain how that it was doing these miraculous things. I mean the scientific how. And after about 5 years, I was just happened upon a book that was talking about distilled water. And at the time, I, like almost everybody else, was fooled by the propaganda against distilled water, mainly the article that always pops up when you Google distilled water, titled "Early Death Comes from Drinking Distilled Water." Like you said, once you realize that distilled water is rainwater, and you would replace that in that sentence, "Early death comes from drinking rainwater," And once you understand that distilled water and pure water are the exact same thing, early death comes from drinking pure water, it kind of slaps your common sense upside the head. But since they use the scientific laboratory-sounding name of distilled, most people will stay away from it. And that's if you want to find pure water in the store that's listed under the name of distilled water. But if you read the fine print, it says, underneath method, it says purified by steam distillation. Purified and distilled are synonyms. They are interchangeable words. So at the time, I told you we dug that well, and I thought we were doing great on that. And I thought distilled water was bad for you. And finally I thought, no, it leaches minerals to the body, because that's what is mainly touted around the internet. But I started reading a book by Hilton Hotema, Hotema, who had a book called Man's Higher Consciousness. He had spent 30 years of his life traveling to the sites of the ancient mystery schools, trying to piece back together the ancient information. And in his book, it's a fascinating read about all kinds of subjects. Completely exposes that people used to live to much, much longer ages. And the reason we're dying now at 60 or 70 is because we aren't taking care of the machine. Hence, when I give presentations, I describe that the shortest thing I can tell people is that my work is a presentation of the original ancient cleaning and maintenance instructions for the human body. So in Hotema's book, he had a section called, it said, rainwater and distilled water are safe. And I almost didn't read it because I thought, I already know what distilled water is about. It's bad for you. But I luckily, fate would have it, I read it anyways. And in his book, he started listing all the things that distilled water did to you. And I was like, well, that's funny. I said, because at the time, I'm a complete expert on urine therapy. I've read over 1,000 testimonials of what happens when people fast for 30 to 40 days on nothing but their urine. They vanquish all diseases. They start to de-age. They throw their glasses away. Gray hair turns back to black. Wrinkles pop out. They start to glow. And their friends start telling them they look 20 to 30 years younger. And these are generally 60 to 70-year-old people that have been given the death sentence by the doctors, cancer, tuberculosis, AIDS, leprosy, whatever. Go home, you're dead. There's nothing more we can do for you. These are the people that are generally the most apt to try something as alternative as urine therapy. Right. But when they do, it's as though they've started drinking from the mythical, supposed lost fountain of youth. And in turn, it turns out this is exactly what urine therapy is, the actual fountain of youth. Everybody comes with one water fountain on their body. And this is why you see fountains all over the planet, this common garden sculpture theme of a little boy peeing into a pool of water. This is a hidden pictogram for the fountain of youth. So people literally de-age when they start to cycle their own water, the water of life, over and over and over again and eat nothing else. And so Hotema started listing all the things that distilled water did to people. And I'm like, wait a second. I was like, well, that's what urine does. That's what urine does. That's what urine does. And then the light went on. I go, oh my gosh, that's it. As I was finding, I ordered 20 books. I was trying to figure out how is it doing these things. The most of the books would say, the urine therapy books is, well, it's either a gift from God or it induces a healing reaction, which both are definitely true. But it doesn't really explain the how. You want to know what is going on. And the most I could figure out is that maybe it's the ammonia in the urine that's rinsing plaque out of the arteries, that's whitening teeth, rinsing arthritis out from between the bones, and frozen necks and frozen hands and frozen knees from arthritis all of a sudden become limber and the people can walk free again. And after 20 years of ibuprofen, after just 3 months on drinking their own water, they don't ever need ibuprofen anymore. And cataracts dissolved, and they don't need glasses anymore. It's like, how is it doing that stuff? And I knew it worked because I just couldn't believe that 20 books and 1,000 testimonials from all over the planet were all a concerted effort to make up a lie. Plus, everything you try, everything that I tried and my family members and friends tried, worked exactly the way the urine therapy book said it would. So I knew it was real, but I couldn't figure out what was doing it. But there is this one common line, and this is known in the science world as well. That's why it's good to pee on jellyfish bite stings. It's good to pee on a wound. that all the books say, and even science will say, that urine is more sterile than distilled water. They'll never go to say that urine is distilled water, but they keep making that reference that it's more sterile than. So I had that little part in the back of my head. And when Houtema started listing the things that he said what distilled water did to the body, and the key line he said was, distilled water dissolves mineral deposits. And that, combined with all the other lines saying that urine is more sterile than distilled water, there's another line in the urine therapy books that says that urine melts rocks and removes stones. And so I had that, melts rocks and removes stones, and I've seen it, and I know plenty of patients and all the testimony, people that have kidney stones. They just dissolve when they start cycling their own water over and over and over again. And so, in arthritis, that's just stone deposits between the body. In cataracts, it's just stones and mineral deposits, rocks in between the delicate lenses of the eyes. You're not supposed to get sand in your camera because the delicate lens has to open and close at precise movements. So when you get old deposits of dirt, rocks, and mineral deposits in between your eye lenses, they stop focusing as well. And so when Houtema said that distilled water dissolves mineral deposits, I said, that's the exact same line as urine melts rocks and removes stones. And then the light came on. I said, oh my gosh. I said, that's it. I finally figured it out. It's the distilled water aspect of urine that is responsible for all these amazing results, because urine is always known to be 95% pure water. But I just, because none of the books ever say that it's distilled water, I finally put two and two together, because when people, everybody's used to urine being something that's really nasty, and it is when you're eating 3 cooked meals a day, because it's when you cook it, you kill all the life force in it, and it's garbage to the body. And that's why people are dying at 60 or 70 instead of 600 and 900 like Moses and Noah, because those guys used to know how to access the original cleaning and maintenance instructions for the body. Those are the actual real abilities of the body. And everybody that loves the Bible and they want to thump on it, they'll thump on all parts of it. But when you get to that part about Moses and Noah living to 900 and 600 and all those other people in there, those with incredible hundreds of years of age, they don't know what to do about it. When my wife was a child in Bible school, she used to ask once in a while, she said, well, how come these guys live to 900 and I only get to live to 60 or 70? And they didn't want to answer. They, basically tell her to shut up and go to the back of the class because it was annoying to them. But that is, you need to not take the Bible as allegory. It's truth. It's speaking flat out to you. When it says it's the water of life, it will give you life. And so if you drink pure waters, and that's what we're talking about here, and that's what distilled water is. It's pure water. And so when I saw that in Houtema's book, I immediately, which I'd never done before, I started finding distilled water books. And there's a couple of them. There's great books on it. The most fantastic one, and it's like 40 pages, because everybody will see as we talk here, even though we're going to talk for 2 or 3 hours, this knowledge pleases your common sense because it makes sense to you. It doesn't make sense that early death comes from drinking pure water. The opposite should be the title of the article. The opposite is true. Remember I said whatever the mainstream pushes, you should look in the opposite direction and you'll find truth. Well, replace early death with long life in that title. Long life comes from drinking pure water. Long life comes from drinking rainwater. Long life comes from drinking distilled water. Long life came to Noah and Moses because they knew about drinking pure waters. So I started ordering distilled water books, and the one of the best ones you can find sometimes for under $1 on Amazon. Oftentimes, even brand new, it's $3. The shipping costs more than the book does, but it's 40 pages, and it's called The Choice is Clear, and it's by Dr. Alan Bannock, B-A-N-I-K. Phenomenal book, just pleases your common sense to no end. Another book is called The Distilled Water Cure by Dr. Hanish, H-A-N-I-S-H. Another phenomenal book, Dr. Paul Bragg and Patricia Bragg, who are the makers of Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Bragg has a book called The Shocking Truth About Water. Phenomenal book. There's another one I can't remember right now. Dr. Norman Walker wrote a great book called, one called Fruit and Vegetable Juices. And Dr. Walker also wrote a book, Water, What You Don't Know. But no, that's Patricia Bragg's book. Well, anyway, look up Dr. Walker. He wrote a book with water in the title, too. And Dr. Walker lived to be 99. Dr. Bragg lived to be 99. I started ordering these books, and sure enough, these doctors that actually had the courage, like we were talking about doctors earlier, even when you show them the truth, they're more interested in protecting their car and house payments. These doctors had the courage to stand up and not only tell the truth, but to write books on it. And I consider them walking earth angels for writing those books.
Absolutely.
And there's free PDF files for them on my website, AquariusTheWaterBearer.com. If you look on the books, The Choice is Clear is there, and Dr. Bragg's book, The Shocking Truth About Water, is there. And also my favorite urine therapy book is there. It's called The Water of Life by John Armstrong. So I started ordering these books, and sure enough, everything that these guys were saying overlapped with the urine therapy. The effects are exactly the same. And what we have now to present to the world is that it's not just urine that is the miracle cleanser for the body. What in truth it is, if you want to be honest, is it's not urine per se, it's the pure water within it. And so you can also just drink pure water if accessing your own fountain of youth is not the thing for you. And so we have multiple sources of distilled water, whereas before the only true miracle cure for cancer, AIDS, leprosy, tuberculosis, diabetes, on and on, was urine therapy. Now we know you can just pound a gallon a day of distilled water. But there's also all living fruit and vegetable juices, never pasteurized. That's death. Pasteurized milk, pasteurized juices that come in a bottle are pure death. Stay away from them. You should only juice live, fresh juices and drink them within 20 minutes before they start to oxidize. You can do a glass of fresh pineapple juice, it'll be bright yellow. If you don't drink it and let it sit there for 20 minutes, you will watch it turn from bright yellow to a slightly darker yellow. And that's oxidation happening. That's the death of the thing. You want to drink it while it's bright, alive, and shining. You have all precipitation, rain, mist, snow, dew, and fog. These are all distilled waters. You have artificially made distilled waters. And however you make it doesn't matter. Whatever method you use, it doesn't have to be a distiller. It can be, 2 reverse osmosis machines in a row, 7 carbon filters in a row. Whatever it takes to get to pure water, that is distilled water. Any water which is pure, as in 0 parts per million, and you can get a TDS meter, a fantastic little $15 device off of Amazon.com. TDS means total dissolved solids. It measures the parts per million in any liquid. And so you can stick it in your water and see if it actually reads 0 parts per million. It's great. My well water is 66 parts per million. I got a friend who's got a deep artesian well, 900-foot well. He's totally proud of it. I stick the TDS meter in, and it's 700 parts per million. Total death. Total arthritis water, cataract water, heart attack water, diabetes water. Whatever you want to call it, all of these diseases are caused by foreign matter inside the body. And pure water does nothing but focus on flushing all foreign matter out of the body, including all pathogens, all things that are deadly to the body, viruses, bacteria, fungi, anything that's, the good bacteria stays in you, everything bad gets rinsed out. It's why you're a water-based creature.
Absolutely. I just want to make a little note here for all those people that are listening right now. We're going to be taking calls throughout the program, so go ahead and get your questions or comments ready, and you can call. You have to call in the number 683-1309. You must push 1 so that we know you want to ask a question. But yeah, that's a good point. Artesian well with 700 parts per million. And all these people hawking these water filters. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I guess it's okay in a survival situation when there's no power. It's good to have a gravity feed, but even better would be a distiller that was powered by a solar cell or something. It seems like.
They also have solar distillers that don't even use solar power. They work by method of evaporation, which is nature's method, the hydrologic cycle. Just another thing you can use to slap people in the noggin when they try to tell you distilled water is bad for you. The only type of water that the planet creates whenever it wants to create new water, it only creates distilled waters.
That's right.
All living fruit and vegetable juices, all water inside all plants, all water inside all creatures are distilled waters. And rain, mist, snow, dew, and fog. The hydrologic cycle, so we've got 4 of them. We've got all precipitation, all body waters, which would be urine and breast milk, and then plasma and the amniotic fluid. Those are all pure distilled waters and artificially made. So there's 3 natural ones and there's 1 artificially made. And again, it doesn't matter what machine you use, just as long as the outcome is 0 parts per million or pretty close to it. I got a friend that's got reverse osmosis water, and it comes out at 4 parts per million. And he's been doing the gallon a day thing, and he's been having the exact same fountain of youth de-aging effects as everybody else. He's a little overweight, and he said, "Man," he said, "Webb, I'm eating the same, and my pounds are starting to shut off. I'm not doing anything besides doing what you said to add the gallon a day to my life."
Right.
That's part of the beauty of this knowledge is you don't have to change anything. We all have the most hardest, terrible time trying to quit our addictions, and I don't care if it's smoking or drinking or eating lobsters every night or whatever your fancy is. If you start, just don't try to quit those. That's too hard. Just add a new addiction. Add the gallon a day. Everything else from there will follow. Misery loves company. And when you're full of garbage, there's 3 layers of trash that happen inside the body if you exist without cleaning it on a regular basis, which is basically the degradation you're witnessing in society is human bodies or machines that have never been cleaned. First, a layer of dirt forms, and then there's bugs that start to live in the dirt, and then there's parasites that start to live off the bugs. So if you don't clean those out, people just become totally wasted. They just become broken down machines. It's like buying a car and driving it off the lot without ever changing the oil. Oil is the lubricant to an engine, to a mechanical engine. Water is the lubricant and the cleaner to a human engine, a human body. And you're witnessing people driving their cars into the ground. You would not, you're supposed to change oil every 3,000 miles in a car. I think everybody could agree. You'd probably get, if you just never change it once, you might get 20,000 miles before it totally melted down and just froze up on you, right? And you know that if you take care of a car and you follow the original cleaning and maintenance instructions, the car will easily last for 200,000 miles. And then there's people who really, take care of their cars, and you can see them on the internet. There's people that get 2 to 4 million miles out of their car because they take perfect care of it. And that kind of correlates, 20,000 miles versus 200,000 miles. That's 1/10 the life of that car if you don't take care of it, if you never clean it. And that is exactly a comparison to Moses. People are dying roughly at 60 to 70. Moses lived to 600. He lived 10 times as long as the average person because he took care of his body. He cleaned it out regularly.
Well, you make a good point there. And Dr. Colwell, last time he was on the show, made an incredible insight, and I never even thought about it. But, these elites, they know all this because, they don't eat GMO. And I'm sure they're drinking distilled water. That's why, they have it for sale in the stores so everybody can have it. But hardly anybody buys it because they've been brainwashed. But, Dr. Colwell says, have you ever heard of somebody in the royal family dying of cancer? And I never have. Think about it. All those royals, all the time that they've had, I've never heard of a single one dying of cancer. So we know that they've got the cures. I mean, we talk about this all the time. So it's no surprise. They know this knowledge and they've just suppressed it. And that's evil. And that's why we're breaking those lies down tonight, you know. And talk about a little bit about, because some people, they think, oh, urine, that's, but in a survival situation, you better be ready to do something like that, because if you have no water, how long can you last with no water if you do nothing, versus how long can you live if you knew that you were in a situation you had no water? How long could you last? Have you heard of people lasting if you began drinking your urine?
I've read, in those 1,000 testimonials I read, there's a whole class of survival testimonials. And I've read people going as long as 4 months. And what happens is they vanquish all diseases that they had when they got shipwrecked and stranded on an island.
Yeah.
And not only that, they go from whatever diseases and signs of aging they had, all of those symptoms reverse, and they are in the best condition of their life ever when they are finally found. It's not like they're on their hands and knees at their last gasping breath. They are just like, hey, what's up? Aside from the trauma of being stranded for 4 months.
Right.
So, this is how one would spend 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. You don't bring 300 pounds of water on your pack. You just loop your own water over and over again. And it becomes rainwater clear within 3 to 5 days. That's what I was going to say earlier. I forgot. It smells nasty and it looks nasty because you're used to eating toxic cooked food. When there's not a single animal anywhere in nature that cooks their food before they eat it. This is a terrible, terrible practice. And it's a joke that they foisted on us when they give you this bull line that the day that we mastered fire and learned to cook our food is the day that we separated from the animals. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the day the rest of the animals looked at us and, what is wrong with you? You guys are idiots, Like you got a pack of dogs with you, and they help bring down a buffalo. And all of a sudden their best friend, says, no, hang on a second. Before we chow down on the buffalo, let me burn it first. Yeah. That's what's making people die at 60 or 70. They're completely wiping the life force out of their food. And no animal anywhere on the planet applies any heat to the food. The closest thing there is to it is buzzards and carrion that eat food that's been sitting on the road for 3 days and sitting in the sun. But they got super incredible stomachs to deal with putrefying meat.
Yeah.
It's still not really cooked. 300 degrees a piece of chicken for an hour with 20 minutes in boiling water. Steam at 212 degrees. This is pure death, and then you're shoving death into your body. What this is akin to lighting your gasoline on fire before you put it in the engine. You're burning the fuel before you consume it. You're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to put the gas in the car and then let the engine burn it. You got to put the living food in your body and let the engine burn it. This is the same as burning your wood before you put it on the fire. You're completely using up the energy by cooking it and burning it. It's like, taking a pile of ashes from all the wood that you burn and say, okay, now I'm going to put it on the fire. Well, it's going to put the fire out, which is exactly what happened to people at 16, 17 years old. The fire is going out because they've done nothing but shove 3 piles of toxic cooked food down their throats for 60 to 70 years, and the machine is just absolutely giving out under the sheer brunt of a horrific toxic tidal wave.
Well, and I'm glad we're covering this as far as the survival situation, because even though there's some people out there that said, oh, I'll never try that. I mean, if you've got a serious disease, then you definitely need to look into urine therapy, because sometimes it's the only thing that could actually help you, unless you want to be on these pharmaceuticals for the rest of your life that'll just end up killing you anyway. So besides just in a survival situation, if you had no access to water, you better be doing it immediately, because if you do it immediately, like you said, you could last for months. So, would you do that to save your life? Yeah, I think most of you would. But tell another thing, because like Snake bites, I think, is another thing. If you were caught in the wild somewhere and you had no access to a hospital and you got hit by a poisonous snake, isn't there a way that you can actually help yourself with urine as far as some kind of bites from insects or snakes?
Absolutely. And this, if people want to try urine, the smallest thing you can do to have the biggest daily impact is to put 3 to 10 drops under your tongue of your first morning's pee, or any morning's pee. It's just the first morning has the most information because you've been sleeping all night and your body's been doing a lot of repair work. There's a lot of human growth hormone in it. It's good for recycling hormones. It's good for men that think they need Viagra and Cialis. You can recycle your own testosterone. It's good for women. They can recycle their own estrogen. But the reason to put it under your tongue on a daily basis, and then I'll tie this into a snake bite, is because there's antigens in your urine. These are, if anybody's familiar with homeopathy, these are homeopathic-sized dots of whatever's wrong with you. So you've got the flu, or you've got some cancer, or you've got AIDS. This is information in the urine, and they're called antigens. And the 2 lymph nodes under your tongue are the ones that produce antibodies. So when you hold a couple of drops under your tongue, just for 10 minutes, you don't even have to swallow it, spit it out, but just forget about it. Go tie your shoes for 10 minutes, make your coffee, whatever. What you'll be doing is giving yourself a daily auto-vaccination. The way that these vaccines that are in needles, they generally say polio. They give you destroyed, dead cells of the polio virus. Not so that it will give you polio, but so that your body can study the destroyed cell and go, oh, okay, this is what the polio dude is like. Now I know how to defeat him because I can study him. Now that he's dead and I can lay him out of my operating table and dissect him and know what he's all about. Now I can start producing the right polio virus antibodies. So that's how a vaccine works. Well, this is exactly, you don't need vaccines for anything. I don't care if it's H1N1, SARS, any of these bullcrap things that they're injecting and spraying on the populace and trying to pretend that there's these scary, horrifying pestilence and diseases spreading. Every single one of them can be identified by your own body by putting some of your own water, your urine, under your tongue, because it'll study the antigens, and the lymph nodes on your tongue will start popping out the right antibodies. Oh, this is the guy bugging us. Go bam, bam, bam. They'll start popping out the right antibodies.
So if you got bit by a spider or a rattlesnake or something, and you're on your own basically, what would you do? Do you want to immediately do it, or put it on your tongue, drink? What would you do if you were caught in that situation?
Well, I have been caught in a situation. I am deathly allergic to wasp stings. My father and I both look physically similar. We have 2 identical allergies, walnuts and wasps. And as a kid growing up, anytime I eat banana bread or cookies or anything, I didn't know it had walnuts in it, I would know 20 minutes later, because like my father as well, our mouth would break out into canker sores. And so likewise, my father and I are both deathly allergic to wasp stings. We go into anaphylactic shock, and I have a prescription for an EpiPen, which I no longer carry around at all because I've figured out the truth of how to use your own body fluids. Any time that any poison enters the bloodstream, within seconds, the antidote is in your urine. And all you have to do is pee out a little bit into your hand and put it under your tongue and hold it there. Now, most people don't realize how fast the blood is moving through the body. If you ever had to get an MRI, they give you a little cup of barium liquid, and you can feel it because it's got this tingly sensation because the barium will show up magnetically in the MRI. So that's why I want you to drink it. When you drink it, it tingles wherever it goes, and it will blow your mind how quickly you can feel it coursing all through your body. And even in the science books, the kidneys go through 1,000 liters of water every 24 hours.
Wow.
So I'm sure within 5 seconds that the antidote is in your urine, but just to be safe, wait 15 seconds, put it under your tongue. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Before I knew about this knowledge, and it's any poison. It doesn't matter if it's a coral snake, a mamba, black mamba, a rattlesnake, a scorpion. I don't think scorpions are actually poison. I think it's a myth. But, or maybe it's not scorpion. Tarantulas. I think that's one that it's just a movie.
Yeah.
A Hollywood theme that tarantulas are poisonous. They're actually little fuzzy dudes that are nice.
Yeah.
But any poison that enters the bloodstream, within seconds, the antidote can be urine. All you do is put it on your tongue. So before I knew about this trick, and I got stung by a wasp, I started getting slight itchiness all across my body. I started getting red blotchiness. My head started tingling with itchiness. And I said to my friend, I think you better take me to the hospital. I think I'm going into shock. Oh, no, I said, I think you better take me to the drugstore to get some Benadryl.
Yeah.
And on the way to the drugstore, my chest started getting restricted. And I immediately remember my father telling me how when he gotten stung, that his chest and throat started closing up.
Yeah.
And luckily he got to the emergency room in time. So my chest started getting this tight feeling. And I said, no, let's skip the drugstore. Let's go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
So we get there, and it's full. It's like packed with people. Like if you had a broken finger, it'd probably take you 5 hours to get seen by a doctor.
Yeah.
But anaphylactic shock can kill people within 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. And it varies each time. It can just all of a sudden take you over and shut down the whole body. So I go to the front counter and tell them that I got stung by a wasp and that I think I'm going into shock.
Yeah.
And they take my name and tell me to sit down. And I swear I was not sitting but more than 7 seconds before they go, Andrew Weber. And they immediately had me surrounded by 5 doctors and nurses.
Yeah.
And they put liquid Benadryl in one arm. They put liquid IV in the other arm, put oxygen in my face. They're taking my blood, pulse, and everything. And they manually calmed me down. Now, and then they gave me the prescription of the EpiPen. So from that time on, I was terrified to go out in public or out in the woods. And I just, oh my gosh, I could die if I don't have my EpiPen with me to jam in my thigh. But once I learned about this, 2 years after learning about urine therapy, I was doing some woodwork in the exact same area where I got stung by a wasp 2 years prior. And I moved a log, and this whole swarm of wasps came up out of the ground. And sure enough, one stung me right on the forearm. And I looked at it, and not but 3 days prior, as karma would dictate, my friend and I were joking about this kind of trick you can do with urine. We said, yeah, we should get a rattlesnake and let it bite us and see if it works. So 3 days later, I get stung with a wasp. I go, oh, here's my chance right there.
Yeah.
So about 12 to 15 seconds later, I peed out into my hand, just a little pool. I put it under my tongue, and I sat at the kitchen table with my same friend who had been there before that driven me to the hospital. Had the car keys in one hand and the EpiPen in the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there. And 10 minutes went by, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Absolutely nothing happened. My body was totally silent. No itchiness, no red breakouts, no constriction of the chest and the neck. Pure silence. Now, I live in South Carolina, and there's a lot of biting insects here. They get to spend a lot of time growing because we don't have that much cold air time to reduce them. So since that time, I've been stung by wasps 2 more times. And each time, it's 3 times total. I've used the same method. Exact same thing has happened every time.
Wow.
And because walnuts were kind of a minor allergy, I knew that it would cure it. I just stopped paying attention to any canker sores and just started eating walnuts because I was practicing daily urine therapy. And now, not only will urine stop allergies in real time, they will permanently erase the reaction at all. And now that has happened to me with walnuts. I eat walnuts with joy now. I have 2 3-pound bags in my cupboard because I love them. I never get a single canker sore in my mouth. My father still cannot eat walnuts because he's never practiced this, and he gets canker sores. And so for any of these children that have these horrifying, terrible milk and peanut allergies that can't even go near a lunchroom, and by the way, all these allergies, especially the gluten one, are caused by fluoride. Fluoride dissolves the ladder rungs between your DNA. You know, the double twisted helix shape of your DNA, those are called hydrogen bonds, those little ladder rungs. And you can see in photoscopic, microscopic images even, that your DNA literally unravels when it dissolves the hydrogen bonds. So you have basically what you might call drunken DNA. It can't function like it should be. And so the body starts screwing up because of the fluoride toxicity is just destroying the body. These kids can be cured permanently of their allergies. And there's a simple little trick, and you can make a homeopathic formula. When you are having an allergic reaction, your pee in that time is very full of the information of the stupid allergic reaction. And what you can do is take just even one drop of pee, because everybody knows in homeopathy that the more diluted something is, the more powerful its effect is on the body. And as you use homeopathy more and more, you have to go to the more and more diluted, even up to 2 and 10 million times diluted. It becomes more and more powerful. And so you can take one drop of urine when you're having an allergic reaction and put it into 2 tablespoons of pure water and succuss it, shake it 50 times so it becomes completely blended throughout the water. Now put that water into a little tiny dropper bottle with a dropper, a rubber stopper dropper. And what you can do, like say 3 times a day, put 5 drops under the tongue and just forget about it, leave it there. And do it until that bottle is gone. What you will be doing is giving your body a 3 times a day daily lesson about that particular antigen. And you will permanently erase the allergy.
Wow, that's amazing information. I mean, guys, we just heard some things that could save your life in a situation. I mean, we don't know. Society can collapse at any time. You could be out in the wilderness somewhere and get hit with a rattlesnake or a water moccasin, who knows. And I'll tell you what, you better remember this program because this could save your life. And I remember reading some of these books and so forth on your site. They've talked about this. Many people have done this. They even tell you if you get stung by a jellyfish to pee on it, I guess. And so that's just a tiny bit in the mainstream, but they never tell you about this stuff with the wasp or bee allergies or peanut allergies, because that would take away from big pharma because you can't patent your own pee. So, it's crazy.
I got another testimonial to give you about survivors.
Yeah.
Just this week, I was contacted by this guy named Dave, who lives over in England. He saw my interview with Lisa Harrison, really nice lady from Australia. And he had been practicing urine therapy for a year, but he didn't know the depths of it like I had. And it explained all this, that you can go forever on your own water. It never fails. And the Bible says that for the water that I give shall spring up and be a fountain of everlasting life. It doesn't say temporary life. It says everlasting. And you need to start taking the Bible for real and for literal and not just think, as I tried to explain this to my stepmother, that the water of life was actually a literal thing. Yeah. She said, no, Andrew, they're just talking about Jesus' love. Well, maybe they are, but it's also flat out, they're talking about water, and in specific, they're talking about urine. And Proverbs 5:15, drink thee of thine own well and waters from your own cistern. Well, your own well is obviously your bladder, and your own cistern is obviously your bladder. And that's, again, a reference to the fountain of youth, and that's why you see these statues of little boys peeing into fountains. So this guy, Dave, hears my information, and to the depths of saying that it's really real. It's not just something that can kind of be beneficial. It's the ultimate thing to do. He said, there's all this talk and all this scare about the world coming to an end, and and that there's going to be food and water shortage crises. And he said, well, screw it. I'm going to go on a 30-day urine fast, as though, and not just, normally during a urine fast, these aren't people stranded in survival situations. They supplement with whatever water they feel like, but that's it. No, they just pure water and pure urine, no food at all.
Right.
But they have the freedom, because they're not trapped on an island, they can drink some water as well if they want to. But they decided to pretend that there was a water and food shortage. Yeah. He decided to pretend that he was trapped on an island, and he went for 30 days without ingesting anything else, water or food, except for his own urine, his own water of life, the rivers of living water that course through your body. He lost wonderful amounts of weight. He had been on an asthma steroid inhaler for 40 years. He'd been told that he had the lungs of a 7-year-old. Completely got off of his asthma inhaler. His lungs said they started to feel like that of a 15-year-old. He had nerve damage from an Achilles heel operation that was extremely painful. Within the 4th day of the fast, that pain had completely disappeared. And he'd also practiced yoga during his life, and one of the hardest positions is the full lotus position, which he hadn't been able to do since he was a teenager. He was able to achieve that position again with ease. He became flexible and limber, and he said, it's hard for the first 3 or 4 days because you feel hunger, but what you're really feeling is detox and withdrawal symptoms. Yeah. When you cook food, you create excitotoxins in the charred food, which are almost identical in their molecular structure to heroin and cocaine.
Wow.
So these are narcotics that you're trying to quit. The cooked foods are incredibly addictive, and the hunger pains that you feel every morning and in between meals is actually you being like a crack addict and having withdrawal symptoms. And that's why you start drooling at the smell of cooked food, because as soon as you eat it, it quells the withdrawal symptoms. And so Dave said, aside from the first 3 or 4 days, it was incredibly easy. And one of the most common questions when I say to people, that you can go forever, they're like, yeah, but won't you dehydrate? Won't you run out of water? And they say, that's impossible, because you're always sweating, you're always breathing out breath. But they never think about the fact that you're also breathing in and that the skin breathes inwards. And so I asked Dave about that specifically. We had a nice Skype call a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And he said he never ran out of water. And not only that, but the volumes of water, the levels never dropped the whole 30 days. And he even purposely did a day of hard labor in the middle of it. Had a pile of materials on one side of his yard, and he purposely lugged them all to the other side of the yard, built a structure, some like a kind of a lean-to or a little a house type thing, built it, completely took it apart, and carried it all back to the other side of the yard on purpose, just to sweat, to exercise a lot and to try to make himself supposedly run out of water. So the odd thing is he hardly sweat at all. And he felt great. He had more energy than ever. So this is wonderful, because I've never actually been able to talk to any of these survival testimonies people, because a lot of these books are older, and a lot of times they might just have the first name of the person, how old they were, no way to get in contact with them. But now there's somebody who has done it, and I told him he's done a great service to the world, and he's actually going to interview me. We're going to have an interview tomorrow night. So I'll get to ask him more about this, but this is wonderful to help prove. We've now got somebody that you can talk to that did it and showed us this is how you spend 40 days and nights in the desert. You don't need to bring 300 pounds of water with you. You just cycle your own water, and it will never fail you. It says it right in the Bible. Let any man who thirsts come to me for the water that I give, right? And even all this talk about manna from heaven in John, it's excellent quotes in John, around John 37, about for the bread that men provide, death will follow. But the bread that I give shall provide everlasting life. And the bread they're talking about is not cooked wheat. They're talking about mana. They're talking about prana. Prana, mana, chi, life force, light force, Wilhelm Reich's orgone energy, Tesla's radiant energy. These are all same words for the same thing. The light that is within you. All the references to light in the Bible are literal. We are the light, and you can see the light. And pure water is a conductor for light. It's not that pure water is light. That's why it's called the water of life. Light and life are two words for the exact same thing. So everybody's always wondering, what is life anyways? Well, life is light, and light is life. And that's why the word light has a silent GH in it. Normally when GH is pronounced in a word, it has an F sound, like as in enough. And so life can very easily be pronounced as light or light and life. The same thing. That's why it's called the water of life, because the of separates the two things. It's not that water is life, it's that water is of life. And it means it's a conductor for life force energy. And this is provable with actual machines. Well, two simple things. Kirlian photography, spelled with a Kirlian. Kirlian photography is a camera that can pick up electromagnetic fields. And you can take a picture of people and see the auric glow around them. This is the light. And foods as well, especially if you Google Kirlian food cabbage, I know in specific, somebody took a piece of cabbage and they photographed it with a Kirlian camera when it was raw. And all foods will have this wonderful purple, blue, sparkly, white, snapping little electric field around it when you use this particular camera. After you cook it, and they cook this piece of cabbage and then photograph it, it looks like a black and white photograph because there's absolutely no life force shining off that piece of cabbage anymore. And it's not a black and white photograph. It's just that the electromagnetic camera is picking up 0 readings of electromagnetic energy. And the other simple tool is an ohms meter. And ohms measure resistance to harmful energy, electricity, which kills people, right? When you stick the two electrodes of an ohms meter, it's very simple. Every electrician has one of these to test whether or not a line is hot or not. When you get 3 glasses of water, well water, reverse osmosis water, and distilled water in a row, and you stick it in the well water, there is a low ohms reading, as in there's garbage in the water. It's got a lot of particulate in it, and it's not the water pure. And all electricians know that this, and this blows people's mind because they're used to thinking that if you're standing in water, you're going to die when you get hit with electricity. Well, this is generally true because generally most water is dirty. But distilled water is known as the only water that will not conduct electricity. And that's because pure water is a block to harmful energy. It is the particulate in water that the electricity arcs across. So when you put it into, say, reverse osmosis water, which is kind of a second best to distilled water, but it's not as pure distilled water, the ohms reading goes up, meaning there's more resistance for the electricity to pass between the two electrodes. Then when you put it in the distilled water, the ohms reading goes to a high level. And so now there's incredible resistance for that electricity to pass between the two electrodes. Well, this is what happens to your body when you purify it with pure water. Right now, when you're in a state and you're dirty and you're full of garbage and you got 5 decades worth of collected food. I mean, most people, all these beer guts and these huge bellies and obese people, they have food inside them that is from when they were 10 years old. This is ancient garbage that's just continually piling up.
Right.
When your body is dirty like that, you are a lightning rod for harmful energy to electricity. You are very conductive to it. You have a low ohms reading. You have a low resistance. because when I picked up the 2 electrodes, it shot even higher than the distilled water reading.
Huh.
And my friend who drinks the reverse osmosis water, because we were at his house and he's an electrician, he's the one that told me about that. I didn't know that before, that distilled water will not conduct electricity. He said, yeah, I'll show you. We got out his ohms meter. My friend who drinks reverse osmosis water, when he held the 2 electrodes, the reading went back down to mimicking the reverse osmosis reading.
Yeah.
So you can purify your body by making it more and more pure and rinse out the particulate, which is conductive to bad energy, to electricity. And this is very useful in a time of electronic harassment. We have scalar weaponry. We have HARP weaponry, which goes in combination with the chemtrails. Chemtrails are full of funguses and metal particulate, and these are loading the body up with conductive material. So you rinse it out, and this literally gives you the ability to have the force field that you always wished to have as a kid. This is a real thing that you can do. You can increase your ohms, and you can keep track of it. It's a simple little $20 meter. You can watch your ohms go up the cleaner and healthier you get. And there's even Kirlian photographs of people's hands. They just use that particular thing, but it's a shot that says before healing mode and after healing mode. And there's a little bit of a glow around the person's hand. And once this person started cleaning and detoxing, the glow on their hand under Kirlian photograph increased greatly. So you have the ability to draw the light into yourself, and it goes beyond that. You have the ability to light up this planet and vanquish these dark forces.
Andrew, I got a couple of questions for you, and then we'll take a break. And we've got a caller already coming in, so we'll take that call after the break. So stand by, area code 760. We'll get to you probably in about 5 minutes or so. But when I first started doing this, I definitely you said be ready, because your body's going to detox and you're gonna notice more body odor, and I definitely did. And now it's been, I'm trying to think how many months it's been, at least 3 or 4 months, and I don't notice that anymore. What is the typical time frame that you've noticed, or from other people? How long does it usually take before they notice that the body odor starts to dissipate and they don't have that problem anymore?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's always important when these talks to mention the detox symptoms. You need to make sure that you do not confuse detox symptoms with the idea that the distilled water is making you sick. When we are telling you that distilled water is going to rinse garbage out of you, this has to translate into real world events, as in garbage coming out of you. And it's different for everybody. It depends on what you've consumed your whole life and where your body has stored it to keep you alive. And because your body only has a certain top speed at which you can eject garbage. And when you bring in more garbage than that top speed, you're slowly losing the battle. And so when your body has more garbage than it can eject, it tucks it away in places that are not crucial to you in that moment. The body never makes mistakes. It is infinitely wise. It is us, the captain of the ship, who drive it into the rocks. So when you give your body the chance to clean out, it takes full advantage. When you start rinsing that pure water through there, it loves it, and it starts, because this is what it's used to carry away garbage. The cells are like backed up with garbage. The dump trucks haven't been by in years. And so when the water starts flowing by, like, oh, thank God, please take my garbage. And you will start to have any number of detox reactions. They're different for everybody. We'll list them and list the most horrifying ones, so that hopefully it's not that, or it's less than that for you. But it can be things like terrible smelling breath, terrible smelling armpits, just worse than ever. Feces that smell like petroleum, and just the most horrifying smells. You're like, where did that come from? I can't believe that came out of me. And this is the petroleum that you've collected your whole life from, microwaving your food with saran wrap over. You got like a petroleum rain coming down on your food when you microwave it with saran wrap over. From being in traffic and breathing in car fumes, from living in those Tempur-Pedic mattresses. I got to tell people, That's a petroleum foam bed. Those things are deadly. And people start getting all kinds of strange health reactions that come on. They don't really know what it is, but once they figure it out that it's the mattress, and they're just blasting their face all night in a pure petroleum puff pillow and mattress, as soon as they kick the mattress out of the house, all the health issues start to fade away. So those things are deadly. So you could have nausea, you could have little flashes of nausea, flu-like symptoms, little temporary flashes of flu-like symptoms. You could have vomiting, diarrhea, rashes in weird places.
Looks like we lost connection here. I don't know if anybody can still hear me, but I just lost Andrew. So if you can hear me, Andrew, please, through the website or whatever, please go and call me back. Go ahead and call that call-in number, Andrew, and we'll pull you back on 858-683-1309. I don't know if I'm on the air, but it seems like I might be still. So we'll see if Andrew will call back in here. We lost him. Hopefully I'm still on the air. Let's see if I can verify that real quick. Let's see if we're still on. All right. Let's see if I can take a 4-minute break. We needed to take this break anyway, so I'm going to go to commercial break, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. All right, I am back, and I think we've got Andrew back. Andrew, can you hear me okay, buddy?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was weird. Usually they knock me offline, but I guess we lost your Skype connection there, so we got you back. But yeah, it's amazing information. There's so many things that people are learning how to survive a situation. And, if it was a survival situation, we just taught you how to survive a rattlesnake bite or an insect bite, or if you were stranded without water, you could go for months with just drinking your own urine. And so,
forever.
Forever, basically. And so, and if you have a severe health issue, there was one other question I was going to ask you is, with people with high blood pressure and so forth, is there a general time frame? Do they start noticing improvements in 6 months, 9 months, a year, 3 months? I mean, I know it varies, but generally, what have you heard?
Within a couple of weeks. Here's a basic rough outline. And did I get cut off too soon, or did I cover the detox well enough? People just know that.
Yeah, you said that they could have rashes, excess body odor, and you might want to. Was there some other things too?
And that it's only temporary and only lasts as long as you have it. A general outline of and I get phone calls, testimonies, emails from around the world. And just to reiterate again, you must drink a gallon a day to get these effects. I get no phone calls, testimonies, or emails from people that drink a quart to a half gallon a day. You must create a river of water moving through your body. You've got ancient deposits that need to be swept away, and they're hard and they're ingrained. And it only happens when people reach the gallon a day level. And at first it's hard, and some people feel daunted by it. But over and over again, a common testimonial is that at first it's hard, but then it becomes easier, and then they start to crave it. And they even move up to a gallon and a half a day, which is, by the way, the most I've ever seen a doctor recommend. So over that, you're on your own. A gallon to a gallon and a half a day is great. Maybe if you're a 7-foot tall person, obviously you have a bigger water mass inside you, so maybe that person can handle 2 gallons. But over a gallon and a half a day, you got to use your own intuition. And just for the record, I'm not a doctor. These are my opinions based upon my own independent research of 10 years looking into health, and roughly $50,000 spent on source materials to put this all together. So in these testimonials that I receive now on a daily basis, there are always things of a miraculous nature, and they're they seem miraculous, but they're not. It's just the way it works. They're only miraculous compared to what you're used to being told is possible by Western medicine, which is basically a joke and death. So, glasses being thrown away and hair being turned back to its original color, this is just unheard of. But this is a very common, everybody that follows these instructions, a gallon a day of pure waters, and it can be any combination, just as long, whether it's juices, urine, distilled water, or precipitations, it doesn't matter as long as the total volume reached per day is a gallon. I've got 3 70 to 80-year-olds here in Columbia, South Carolina, who have all had shock white hair for a couple decades.
Yeah.
All 3 of them have started having their hair turn back to their original color.
How long did that take? And did they just do distilled water, or did they also do urine therapy?
Yeah, and actually not a one of those has touched urine. This is just from distilled water, and this is proving my point that distilled water is a mimic of urine, and it's really the distilled water aspect of it. Urine tends to work faster because it's distilled by God, by your body. There's no machine in science that can match the distillation bodies levels of the human body. Remember, just one time through, science admits that urine is more sterile than distilled water. So the miraculous things tend to happen at about 3 months out. But let me back up. When you first start doing this, and I can't believe how many times I've heard these exact same words in different letters, that within 3 days, people start to feel more energy than ever. This is only if you're doing the gallon a day. So within 3 days, you start to feel this subtle lift in energy and a brightness and an awareness. And there's more oxygen in pure water than any other type of water. There's more oxygen in water than there is in the air per volume. So that happens within 3 days. That helps you go, oh, this is pretty good. You start to feel an energy. And people, they say it seems like once they start getting on this water, they feel like everybody else around them is asleep and everybody else is moving slow. Their thoughts start to become quicker and faster and more clear. Within 30 days, people know that this knowledge is true because for 30 days, the energy levels have just steadily increased to a beautiful clarity. Within 30 days, the skin starts to have a moist, dewy sheen to it. A slight glow starts to form. They just feel wonderful. They start to feel limber. Their intuition starts to know this is because all I've changed in my life is I've started to drink pure water. It's at 90 days out that things of a miraculous nature, which are undeniable, start to happen. Things like glasses being thrown away, hair. I mean, the 70 or 80-year-olds, not only do they literally have their hair starting to go from white to gray, they actually have, sometimes they'll show me, I go, look, Andrew, and they'll part their hair, and they'll show me they have brand new, pure black hairs sprouting on their heads. I have a guy who's 30 years old. He has had a pure 8-inch in diameter, maybe 6-inch diameter, pure bald spot on his head. And his father was bald, and he was, sure he was in for a life of being bald. And he now has what looks like as though somebody planted grass seeds on his head. There's a new crop of little fuzzy hairs all on the top of in this spot that used to be pure bald. I have a 70-year-old woman who had been required by law to wear driving glasses for 45 years. She had that box checked on her license. At 3 months out, on a gallon a day, she had to go to the DMV to get her license renewed. And when she took the eye exam, the state examiner looked up at her with a puzzled look on his face, and he's like, "You've got 20/20 vision." And he unchecked the box on her license, and she no longer wears driving glasses at all. Her mother is also alive. Her mother is 90. Her mother recently went to her eye doctor for a standard checkup. For the first time ever in that doctor's life, he lowered one of his patients' prescription eyeglass strength. He lowered the prescription strength of a 90-year-old. That's not supposed to happen according to Western medicine.
I did have, my eyes are so bad it would take a long time to help. But I did notice when I got these new glasses that one of my eyes had gotten better, and I've never ever had that happen. I mean, it wasn't like I could go without glasses in that eye, but it was measurable because he even said, "Well, this eye has gotten a little bit better." It's like,
okay.
So
well, one thing you can do to speed that up. This 7-year-old was not putting drops in her eyes. This happens purely from drinking, and from the inside out, the body vacuumed away all the deposits in her eye lenses.
Yeah.
Now, one thing you can do to speed it up is to get, it costs like $2 or $3 at a drugstore, is an eye wash cup, a little glass eye bath. Fill it with distilled water or urine if if you can handle that, and hold it up to your eyes. Do it, 3 times a day. You will be vacuuming the eye from the outside as well, and you can speed up. And it makes tired eyes feel great too. So that's a very simple
idea. Hey, we got a call. Let's take this call. 760. You're on the air with Andrew Weber. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah. Hi, Glenn. This is Barry from California.
Hey, Barry.
And
hey, what'd you think of the show so far? Have you learned anything yet?
Oh, I've been interested for water for a long time, and this is just wow. It's amazing information. I wanted to ask him some questions to make sure I understood him right.
Sure. Yeah.
Regular distilled water that in the store is that okay?
Yes, it's absolutely okay, and it doesn't matter where you get it. And some people wonder, how are you sure it's distilled water? It has to be. They'd be getting sued left and right if they weren't providing pure 0 parts per million water. Now, sometimes it might be 3 parts per million, but still, this is another thing to add to the list of close enough is good enough, like horseshoes and hand grenades. I generally tell people to go to Walmart, not because they make it any better than anybody else, but because they move through the most of it. They cycle through the most. It spends the least amount of time sitting in the plastic jugs. Generally, at small drugstores, it doesn't taste as good because it's had more time to sit there and pick up flavor. But distilled water is distilled water, and the reason they'd be getting sued left and right if it wasn't pure water, if it was like fake and they were trying to kill people with it, is because most people are not going there to buy it to drink it. If you stand there, so not anybody can do this, stand near the distilled water and wait for people to come along and grab a jug and ask them, so hey, are you buying that because you like to drink it? 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you, no, I have to buy it for my machine, my steam iron, my humidifier, my little fountain, because, and you can use this to help them educate them if you want, they'll immediately say, the machine will break down if you don't use pure water. Well, you can correlate that right to your own body. The machine will break down if you don't use pure water. The steam iron will become clogged with deposits and not function if you don't have pure water in it. And also dialysis patients, kidney dialysis. This is another thing to use to prove that the early death does not come from distilled water. The only type of water which is run through dialysis machines that people sit at for 8 hours a day is distilled water. So if people in their little home dialysis machines were bringing home dirty water, it wouldn't be going so well for them. So yes, distilled water is distilled water.
Okay. The next question is, I've heard so much about alkaline water. What's the difference between alkaline water and distilled water?
Distilled water is slightly acidic, and this is exactly what you want. Alkaline water is pure death. If you heard me earlier talking about how it's stupid to burn your wood before you put it on the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alkaline means spent fuel. And this is another total misconception that is foisted upon the people. You have to completely flip your thinking about this. And one thing it helps you to do is is to realize that all living foods are acidic, and they make you alkaline. Everybody knows you put drops of lemon juice in your water because it makes you alkaline, but everybody knows lemon juice is acidic. Drinking alkaline water is like drinking death. And it is the acidic quality of it that means it's got energy and is ready to go. When you burn wood, you are left with ash, or otherwise known as alkalis. Alkaline. Alkalinity is the result of spent fuel. So when people that love to find, spring water that's alkaline, and they like to put mineral drops in their freshly distilled water to make it alkaline, because distilled water on average is slightly acidic. It's generally a 6.0 to 6.2 on the pH scale, where 7 being a neutral. People will try to bring their water up to an 8.0 or 8.5, or they boast about how Patagonia water down in Patagonia is a 9.0, and that's the most awesome water in the world. Total garbage. The reason it's alkaline is because it has dead, spent minerals in it. Those are inorganic minerals. Your body can only use organic minerals. Organic minerals are created by plants. The only place you can find living organic minerals is in live fruits and vegetables. Plants live in the dirt, which is full of inorganic minerals. Plants like to live in the dirt. We don't eat dirt. Plants eat dirt. And through the process of photosynthesis, plants turn inorganic matter into organic matter. Everybody knows about the one symbiotic relationship you have, where our death breath, our out breath, the carbon dioxide, is a life breath to the plants. And the plant's out breath, their death breath, is oxygen. That is what we like. So we have that symbiotic relationship, but most people don't know that there's another one, in that plants turn death into life for us, and we are only supposed to eat living foods, and we defecate death. We defecate inorganic matter, which is why it's such awesome fertilizer for plants, because that's what they live on. And photosynthesis means, photo means photon, synthesis means the combining of two different things, or fusion. So that's photon fusion, photon synthesis. Photosynthesis literally means the injection of light into death. And so these living foods, they are live fuels that are ready to burn. And when you eat them, they're slightly acidic. And when your body burns these things, the result is alkalinity. And that's truly how you get an actual alkaline reading on your, if you do pH, blood tests or strips or like that. That alkalinity is what you want. Now, I'm glad you asked this question, because this is really important. There's people who are all about these Kangen machines, these alkalizing, ionizing machines. Yeah. This stuff is total death, and it's not even water. In Japan, where these Kangen machines originated, they never have people drink it in large volumes. It is only ever administered a shot at a time, an ounce at a time, because it's deadly. They give it to chemo patients over there who are getting radiation treatments. Because it's deadly, it forces the body to have a detox reaction. It must go into emergency detox to push out the poison that you just ingested. And as this happens, they hope, and it does, the emergency push of detox also helps the cancer patient to push out some of the radiation. So that's why they give it to them over there. And in Japan, it's not listed as water. Kangen water is listed as a drug. But over here, you've got multi-level marketing people selling this machine for $4,000. And this machine creates alkaline water. Remember I said alkalinity means burnt fuel? By electrolysis. Lysis in Latin or Greek means to break apart. Electrolysis literally means to break apart with electricity. A Kangen machine is frying the water. And the reason it's alkaline is because it's burnt fuel. They literally fry the water molecule and blow it apart into an H and a HO or an OH. And that's called oxygen hydroxide. That's what that stuff that looks like water that comes out of a Kangen machine, as one doctor put it, a more accurate term for it would be not water. Because it looks like water, but it's not water. It looks like water because it's made out of hydrogen and oxygen, but it's actually oxygen hydroxide. And if you go up to any biochemist in the world and say, hey, is it a good idea to drink oxygen hydroxide? They will tell you you're an idiot and, slap you upside the head and say, no, stay away from that. That's deadly. And so the reason the Kangen machine sellers are telling people that people start having miraculous healings or signs that they're getting healthier when they drink Kangen water is because it's forcing the body to go into emergency detox because they start drinking loads of it. Now, what happens is they slowly, after it can be anywhere from six months to a year to 2 years, the body finally starts to give out from this amazing ongoing onslaught of death water being consumed. And finally, in truth, people actually start to get really sick from drinking Kangen water or alkaline water. And it gives, they also say, well, it gives people alkaline readout. Well, it's giving a false alkaline readout because they flooded the body with so much alkaline matter, it kind of looks like it reads as an alkaline reading on the machine on the test strip. But that's not the kind of alkaline. You don't want it because you just loaded yourself with garbage. You want it because it's happening because you burnt living fuels. And even one testimonial from a guy who used to be a Kangen distributor, he said, even though I kept telling my friends and family about how healthier and much brighter and how much better they're going to feeling, all I witnessed was my family and friends getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And finally, he couldn't avoid the music any longer and figured out what was going on and stopped selling the machines. So great.
Those
question.
things are expensive too, aren't they? Aren't they like thousands of dollars?
$4,000. They're
$4,000.
Yeah, and then there's even people who are, they take Dr. Gabriel Cousins, who made a great movie called Simply Raw, about putting people with diabetes on raw food for 30 days. And by the end of it, he declared all of them cured of diabetes. There's so many of these guys that do not understand what we're talking about right now. They're experts in their field, but they're idiots when it comes to this one thing. It's not their fault, because unless they're doing it on purpose and they're deception agents. They just don't know about. They get this one thing backward because there's such a vast suppression of the knowledge and so many lies about it that Dr. Cousins is on film saying, well, I like to take distilled water and add mineral drops to it, and I prefer it to be about 150 parts per million. And he looks terrible. So alkaline water is deadly. Deadly.
Thank you. And the other question I had, I want to make sure I understood you right. On the you said you get a dropper and you put your urine in there. You said. And
if you want to cure yourself of an allergy, is that what you're asking?
Well, no, you said something about putting something in an eyedropper and taking 5 drops 3 times a day.
Oh, okay. Well,
trying to understand what you were saying.
Talking about. What's that?
I was trying to understand. I didn't quite understand what you were saying about that.
Okay. Well, I mentioned drops on the tongue in 2 different ways. One is just on a daily basis. You could take 3 to 10 drops of urine, especially the morning urine is the most concentrated with information. And just hold it under your tongue for 10 minutes. You don't even have to swallow it. It's like it is an auto vaccination. You'll be daily educating your body, the lymph nodes on your tongue get to study it, to find out what's wrong with you. It's just like taking your car to one of those exhaust readout machines, but where you normally might do that, once every 5 years or something. You get to do this every day for free. It's a biofeedback reading of what's going on inside your body. The other way I was talking about with an eye drop for 3 times a day is if you have an allergy and you're trying to erase the allergy permanently. Not only will putting drops under your tongue stop the allergy in real time when you're having a bad reaction, but if you save some of that urine during the height of that reaction, you can just take 1 drop of it and make your own homeopathic formula by putting that 1 drop of urine into 2 tablespoons of water, and you succuss it. It means to shake it violently 50 times and make sure that the water is completely infused with that 1 drop. Now, until the bottle is gone, roughly 3 times a day, put 5 to 10 drops of it under your tongue. And you will be 3 times a day giving your body a homeopathic readout of whatever that particular allergic issue was that you had.
Great. And I want to make a response on the fresh food. I kind of like a testimony. I haven't drank soda for like a year and a half. I stay away from any of that kind of stuff. I've been drinking water or tea, organic tea, and I don't eat meat. I'm a vegan, and my problem is the sweets. So I've gained the weight back. But since I've made that change, my stomach has cleared up, and I use a Vitamix machine. Are you familiar with that? And I do orange, apples, and bananas with water, and boy, I have no problems going to the bathroom, but I noticed a difference since I've changed my diet. And people saying, oh, you're lacking protein. No, there's other ways of getting protein besides eating meat. But,
yeah, try to tell an 800-pound horse that it's lacking protein. Horses never eat meat, and they're rippled with muscle. All they ever do is eat lowly grass.
What about a gorilla?
Exactly, 800-pound gorilla in the room.
They eat plants and fruits and stuff in the wild.
Yeah, it's a total joke. In the Garden of Eden, the diet was fruit and rainwater, which is another way of saying fruit and distilled water. There was no murdering of animals. In fact, man used to be able to speak to the animals, and they could speak back, and that's when our brains were fully turned on. We're in a very degraded state right now, and the animals are suffering horribly for it. I'm glad you mentioned. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted, before I forgot, I did try drinking distilled water, and then someone found out I was drinking distilled water. Oh, you can't drink distilled water. You're going to ruin your health and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't know,
Right.
Well, that's what we were talking about there. Yeah, they've got entire sites out there that are just geared to putting people in the wrong direction and telling them that it's going to hurt them. Just New World Order brainwashing.
Do you put distilled water in your?
Go ahead.
Do you put distilled water in your apple, orange, banana mix?
No, I'll start doing that though.
Right on. Okay, now I want to tell you about something. I'm really glad you brought this up. Tea. Okay. The reason they've been pushing green tea on the people and telling you that to get your antioxidants, again, whatever the powers that were are pushing, run from it.
Okay.
The reason, green tea, and it doesn't matter if it's organic, doesn't matter where it's farmed on the earth, green tea, which black tea is aged green tea, white tea is young green tea. So white, green, and black tea are all the same plant. The reason that they are pushing green tea so much, and you've got so many people drinking copious amounts of it, is because it is a sponge for fluoride. It soaks up more fluoride and aluminum from the air, soil, and water than any other edible plant on the whole planet. So much so that 1 cup of tea is like drinking roughly, depending on your water supply, drinking roughly 8 liters of fluoridated city tap water. It is a fluoride bomb. And the reason that people feel relaxed and calm afterwards, fluoride is the main ingredient in Prozac, in most antidepressants. It numbs the brain. So drink other teas, herbal teas. If you like the caffeine boost from tea, yerba mate also has caffeine in it.
Oh, I just started drinking that herbal mate.
Oh, cool.
That is excellent.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now, I also want you to know, though, because I can't steer you wrong, caffeine is poisonous to the body. And people think that the caffeine is giving them energy. But actually, caffeine is poisonous, and just like the Kangen water, it forces the body to go into emergency detox, or else you would die. And its route to rout out this particular poison called caffeine is to release adrenaline. It is the adrenaline that makes you think you're feeling energy. The caffeine is poisonous, and you are not getting energy from the caffeine. You are actually drawing from your own precious life reserves to battle that poison. So I know you want energy from your caffeine, from your tea, but remember, and you can try this out, you'll see it for yourself, the source for energy is pure water. Oxygen and hydrogen are both rocket fuels. And the reason people feel more energy than ever, even after 3 days on a gallon a day, is because of those two powerful fuels, which is what water is made up of. So try that instead, and keep doing your wonderful fruits and veg juices.
Yeah.
Good job, Barry.
I'll try that. And Glenn, I send you a couple of links on Skype, some videos. I want you and Stu to check out. I want to make sure they're okay to pass on, and like you were saying, you want more, and it has to do with Danny Castellero and the Mena connection in Arkansas with the Contra, with the Bushes and the Clintons.
Sure.
Check that out, please, and let me know if it's okay to pass those on. I don't want to give any disinfo.
Okay, I'll check it. I'll have Stu check it out. He knows that Mina stuff really well.
Okay, and Andrew, thank you so much. I learned so much just from this show tonight. It just makes so much sense.
You're most welcome, buddy. What was your first name again?
Barry. Just like Barry White.
Okay. Listen, I want you to help me out. The reason that I'm spreading this knowledge, and I've never made a dime off of it, is because I want you to light yourself up. If you rinse all the garbage out of your body, you will start to glow. And it's not a fake glow. It's a glow even the layman can see as you walk down the street. And what literally happens is water, pure water being a conductor for pure light, your cup will literally runneth over. And that glow is because you have so much mana running through you that you are like a turned on light bulb. And even if it's only you, that of all the people that listen to this, even if it's only you that does this, they say that roughly one lit up person offsets 10,000 dark ones. You know that if you had a warehouse full of light bulbs and you turn just one of them on, it would affect the whole warehouse. You will physically, literally be bringing more light, manifesting more light in this dark planet that is run by psychopaths right now. And so that's what I want. I sent Glenn a list of people that make distillers, and a number of them now, 4 different companies, offer discounts if you mention my name. I have no endorsement deal with them. I've done that. They've been doing, they told me, well, do you want us to send the money that we took off to a certain charity? I said, no. I said, I want you to focus on making distillers as cheap as possible for people. And I don't get any kickback from them at all. I have to remain unbiased so that because people have tried to do this. One of the first things they try to do to try to label me as some kind of disinfo agent is, oh, you're just doing this so you can sell distillers. I do not sell distillers, and I refuse to. I encourage other people to. And that's another thing I want to say. Please, everybody out there, if you want to find a way to make some extra money, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Aquarius, the water bearer. It even says in the Bible, behold, and there in the streets you shall meet a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Another word for age is house. We've been in the house of Pisces. We're transitioning to the house of Aquarius. And all that means is that for the past 2,160 years, on the spring equinox every year, the sun has risen with the constellation Pisces behind it. Come December 21st this year, the sun, the next spring equinox, the sun will rise with the constellation Aquarius behind it. We are moving into the house of Aquarius. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. This is the time to remember the effect of pure water on the body. And boy, do we need it now, right? More than ever. We've never seen our friends and family and relatives in such a decrepit state. We've never seen such massive levels of psychopaths on the planet, murdering and killing and spraying and poison. This is insane. Light yourself up and help me rid this planet of dark forces. Monsters only operate in the dark. You turn your light on and they scurry. So go for it.
Can I share one more thing? As far as the astrology, all the signs and all that, and what you just mentioned, that actually the Zionists stole the truth about the zodiac. It tells the gospel message, the real meaning behind all that. But they turn it around and they turn it into something like how can I put it, cultic, psychic. Really, there's a lot of truth behind astrology, and it really tells the gospel message in the sky, and that's what our Creator did. He put it in the sky because you can't hide the truth. He put it in the sky so that we could, not only we have the written word, but he put it in the sky too. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're trying to hide the truth from us through history and school, through the churches that have been taken over by these Zionists. And what they're afraid of is people knowing the real truth, and that's what you're doing. And that's what I'm all about.
Buddy.
Glenn knows that, and that's what Glenn's all about. We need to set people free of the truth. The truth will set you free, and it's not just what's in the Bible, but it's a principle in life, and people need to wake up. They really do, and start helping one another. That's what it's all about.
And if you start drinking the pure waters, it's hard to be deceived anymore because your main deception detector, the pineal gland, your third eye, starts to wake up, and your channel and your communication to God becomes much, much clearer. And it becomes much easier to pray. It becomes much easier to communicate. And it's because your pineal gland, if you want to put it this way, is your satellite dish to God. And that's why they put the fluoride in the water, because it goes right to the pineal gland like a magnet. And I promise you, if you get an X-ray or an MRI of your head, there's not supposed to be any bone in there, but there will be a white rock right in the center of the photograph, and that is your third eye calcified by fluoride. Fluoride is an inorganic material. Distilled water does nothing but remove all inorganic matter from the body. You will start to have more clarity and intuition, and you will start to see the light. You will literally start to see light inside your head when you close your eyes.
I promise I got one more thing to say, and I'm going to go. I have a lady in my...
These are great. Don't worry. These are great questions, okay?
I just have a comment to make. I have a lady in my group that makes organic toothpaste without the fluoride in it. and she does that with soap and with no toxic crap in it. But I am going to start buying this toothpaste from her because she needs support. You know, God has blessed her very much, so I want to support her, and I believe that we need to stop using the fluoride, which is in the toothpaste. You know, and I noticed the last several years I have a hard time remembering people's names. Sometimes I sometimes forget things that I wanted to remember. I noticed that, and it has to do with the fluoride. It has to do with what's going in my body.
And that'll start to reverse as you get on it more. And I definitely want you to support this lady, maybe support her by telling her about distilled water as well. But I can take it one step further. I haven't used toothpaste for 2 years, and my teeth are whiter than ever. Distilled water makes teeth whiter. It is known in all the urine therapy books that it whitens the teeth. It's because it's magnetically stripping all of the dead matter out of your teeth. And everybody across the board starts getting whiter and whiter teeth when they drink pure water. And one testimonial was from a friend of mine. He was drinking it, but his wife wasn't. And at some point, 4 or 5 months down the road, she said to him, she said, honey, have you been using the spin brush more, those little motorized toothbrushes? Because your teeth are so white. And he said, actually, I've been brushing less and less because the distilled water always makes my teeth feel smooth.
Oh, wow. That's great. Okay, yep. I'm gonna get off so in case someone wants to call in, and thank you so much. I really
Thanks,
you made my whole week really today.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. And I will check the I believe it's a website that's on the page here, Glenn. Aquarius, the water.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
It's just like the constellation in the sky, AquariusTheWaterBearer.com.
Yeah,
and
check that out.
If that lady needs to make more money, encourage her to start becoming a water distributor. I want everybody out there to start distributing waters. I want to increase the demand for distillers so that there's more and more of them available, and so that we can even knock the prices down. All right?
Well, I'm gonna make copies of this show tonight, and I'm gonna pass it on to her. So,
cool.
I will spread the message. That's one thing I'm good at. I'm a person, people, and I love to share truths with people, and
cool.
and that's what I'll start doing. So, thank you so much, brother.
Thank
All
you.
right, man. Yeah.
Appreciate the call. Now,
you guys have a great week.
Question. Thanks, buddy. All right. Well, that was a very good call, and we've got another one at area code 912. We've got, after this call, we'll take probably our last break of the night, and then we'll come back for any other calls. So I'm going to take area code 912. You're on the air with Andrew Weber. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, sir, I do. I'm just curious about the correlation between colloidal silver solution and food-grade hydrogen peroxide in therapy. I'm just curious about that.
I don't use either one of those, and I do it on purpose. I take 0 supplements. I'm trying to let the animals kind of be a guide for us, because we've lost so much touch with our true nature that animals are a very nice, calm, easy thing to look towards to give you simple answers. Animals only do 2 things when it comes to consumption. They only eat living foods, and they only ever drink the purest water they can get. I've had multiple testimonies from people, and you can try this yourself. Put down a bowl of city tap water and a bowl of distilled water. Every animal will always go for the purest water. And yes, animals in nature, if there's only a river or pond water to drink, they'll drink that. But if there are pools of freshly produced rain or dew, they will drink the pure water over the river water. So Animals don't ever take any colloidal silver. Animals don't ever take, what was the other thing you said?
Hydrogen peroxide.
Hydrogen peroxide. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about that stuff burning people from the inside out. So
good point. Well, exactly, because if you put it on the outside, it might be doing the same thing on the inside. That's a very good point. Okay.
So the most beautiful thing you can do if you want to live to hundreds of years old, just eat living foods and drink the purest water that you can get. That is the diet in the Garden of Eden.
Well, thank you, sir.
And you can use that rule to rule out all. There's so many guys out there just trying to make money selling products. It's just ridiculous. And there's no animals that take any pills or powders whatsoever. They don't have any things that come in plastic packages or little glass bottles. Never, never, never. And animals do not die of crazy diseases. The only animals that do that are the ones that are domesticated and they're fed the same horrifying cooked food. They even get worse stuff. They get the bottom of the barrel. Dog food and cat food is just murdering our pets. If you put your animals on live food, say go to Sam's Club or Walmart, buy the cheapest frozen fish that you can as long as it's live, and give that to your animals, they become so much healthier. If you have a chicken factory nearby, go and get live carcass parts and feed that to your animals. Living foods are what all animals eat when they're in nature. And this death, you can double the life of your cats and dogs. 13 to 15 years old is a joke for these beautiful creatures. They should be living 2 to 3 times as long as that if they had a real diet.
Well, yeah, that makes sense because with the New World Order kicking in there, that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
You're amazing. I'm gonna get off right now. I got some issues that I'd like to take up with Stu Webb because he knows some of the people I used to work for a guy. I'm gonna be real quick about it. His name was he's deceased now, but Lieutenant Jim Atwood. They called him Colonel Atwood back in the day. I bet him and I could have a conversation or two about him. But tonight's show has been great, and I surely appreciate it. And you got a true listener now, and I'll be calling y'all.
Hey, thank you. Make sure you join the site at project.nsearch.com so you can hear about these shows. It's the only way we can reach you, and we'll probably have Stu on for at least an update tomorrow. He's busy doing lawsuit stuff, but he will be coming on tomorrow. So if you want to talk to Stu, make sure you listen to the first part of the show, because if he's on, he'll be on probably the first half hour. But thank you so much for that call.
Thank you, buddy. And God bless y'all, please. God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take our last break of the night, and then if anybody else has any calls, go ahead and I'm going to give out the call-in number again. It's 858-683-1309. We'll probably have about 45 minutes to go, and we'll talk a little bit about some distillers. And by the way, everybody, I just want everybody to know that tomorrow morning I will have an article out with the replay of this show and also some of this information that Andrew has sent me as far as places to get good deals on distillers. Even some of them have discounts if you mention his name. So I will put all that information in an article. It will be right on the front page of project.nsearch.com. And so we'll make sure that everybody gets that. So we'll be right back, Andrew. All right, we are back. Andrew, you should be back now also. And talk a little bit about these distillers. I know we'll have the list up tomorrow, but as far as roughly, what should you expect to pay for a personal use type distiller? And would you want to get one, I guess, that had a glass bottle of stainless steel bottle, or do you like ones that have like 1 gallon capacity, or, just kind of your opinion if you were going to buy one brand new right now? What kind would you get?
Okay, well, I've been through that because we when we first learned about it. We bought a countertop distiller, which is, they're generally $160 to $200. And you can find $99 ones, but they generally come with a plastic catch, whereas the water, you pour in the countertop ones are manual fill. And the higher class, the much nicer ones, is the auto fill. The manual fill ones, they're about the size of an overgrown blender. And you have to take the top off and pour in a gallon of water, put the top back on, and press go. And it's basically just a boiling chamber with a coil at the top with a fan blowing through it. And the steam comes up, it leaves the heavy inorganic matter behind. And the steam has to go into the coil. It's the only place it can go. And the fan blows on it, and it condenses the steam. And then drip by drip off to the side, you have a catch. And it can be made of plastic or glass. Obviously, you want that new, fresh water to go into glass. Right. And it takes about 3.5 hours to make a gallon. Well, we had my wife and I and the girls, and it's a real hassle to continually be working that machine. And plus, you want to give it to your pets when you realize how good it is for them. And they're just, anybody's cats and dogs, you'll immediately notice they drink way more water. And, it's hard to get cats to drink water. It's because they're smart. They're like, man, this fluoride water blows. They hate chlorine. They can't stand it. Right? So you put down the distilled water, and they're like, yes, finally. And they start drinking it like crazy. So you want to give that to your pets. So a countertop distiller is really only good for one person, maybe two. Especially if you're trying to do the 2 gallon a day thing. The gallon a day thing means you got to run it twice a day, which is not too bad. But then if you got some pets, you need to run it a third time. That it kind of start getting into 3-4 times a day. You're just like, oh, this is such a hassle. But for one person, it's great, perfect. The real way to go is, and I think this should be, even before a refrigerator oven is a part of a kitchen, the first appliance in any kitchen should be a water distiller. What more do we want in our kitchen than a source of pure water? Right. So they are called autofill distillers. And from real companies, they start at about $1,000. And that is a lot of money. And that's why I have called a number of these companies telling them, I'm even educating them. They know what pure water is good for you, but they don't know all this deeper knowledge behind it about how much if you start doing the gallon a day, how much it really, literally starts to de-age people. And so there's a number of them now that are offering discounts, and it's mypurewater.com. And then there's RockyMountainWaterDistillers.com. MyPureWater.com is offering a discount if you call and mention my name. And I don't know the percentage, but they kind of run month by month. But they said, it's a family-owned business out of Lincoln, Nebraska. Great American company, made in America. And, it's expensive because it's made in America, but they are super quality they've been making it for 40 years. And it's a family-owned business. And I called out there and I spent some time talking to the daughter of the business, who's one of their marketing directors. And she had a group meeting with the family, and they agreed to give a discount if people mention my name. And again, I get no endorsement deal. I make no kickbacks. They're purely doing this because I told them I wish there's a way to get people a better deal in the distiller. So at mypurewater.com has said that they will, if somebody calls in and mentions my name, they'll offer a discount. And then they also said if you make your decision to purchase within a month, they'll give you an additional discount. So I'm not quite sure what that is, but that sounds pretty good. And I've gotten them also to offer to throw in a free total dissolved solids meter as well, which is a great thing because you can test how well the machine is working. Should come out to 0 parts per million if it's working right. There's a company that I need to tell people to avoid at all costs. And this one company who actually this guy used to work for, mypurewater.com. And he left them and went out doing it on his own and started wholesaling distillers from China And this guy is terrible because there's no customer service. If you buy one from this guy and it breaks down, you are totally stuck. There's no technical diagnosis. You can hit one on his, when you call in to reach sales, which he'll always answer the phone. And sometimes he's Dave, sometimes he's Ed, sometimes he's got some other name. But if you hit 2 to go to customer service, which if you have any breakdown issues, he said, no, go to customer service. It's an endless loop, and you have to leave your information, and nobody ever calls back. And what he's basically doing is ordering distillers from China. He's not checking them for quality. He's just shipping them on out. But he is selling them cheaper than anybody else on the internet. So he's got an auto-filled distiller, which My Pure Water, their American-made one, starts at $1,000, and it's a much higher quality. He's selling a cheap one for $500 plus $100 for shipping, but there's no customer service backup afterwards. You're totally screwed if it breaks down. There aren't even schematics that come with it, the instructions, and that's what I ordered from it first because I didn't know, and I was just, okay, what's the best deal? I've had 3 or 4 friends order from that company before I finally became hip to it.
Yeah.
On average, 50% of the machines have problems when they arrive. Like a fan, a screw holding the fan in place was just totally, out of place, and the fan was flopping around. A brass fitting just was leaking water. Another friend that bought the same $500 unit, she went away for the weekend, and the cheap metal that they're using in things, just the city water pressure busted the fitting, and while they were away for the weekend, it flooded their apartment and caused thousands of dollars in damage.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow.
This company, where he's got numerous websites, but one of them is called waterdistillers.com. And there's other websites he's got too that have different names, but the common thread you'll see is that it says it's from Toronto, Ohio, and there's a 740 area code number. If you see that phone number, do not order from that company unless you are a mechanic or somebody that can fix these things on your own. That might be the only way that it's worth the risk. It's way better to order from a real company that has actual customer service. And you can try that. If you're not sure of the company, try to hit customers, see if you can actually get customer service on the line. I know, let's see.
What about this? I'm looking at, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm looking at I'm looking at My Pure Water, and I see they got a really nice countertop model also. It doesn't require installation or whatever. Do you know roughly what their countertop model costs? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, their countertop model, I believe, is about $600, and it kind of is like a big boxy metal thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a manual fill, but it's very high quality. It's very well made. Now, where you can, there is some countertop models that are in the $160 to $200 range that come from reputable people, and a lot of these ones, you'll see tons of them on Amazon.com. They all kind of look the same, these countertop models, whereas I know the countertop model you're looking at, My Pure Water, is a box of metal.
Right.
That's a totally different, real high quality manual fill one. The most common manual fill ones are a round, tallish thing that look like the overgrown blender. A lot of those have faulty wiring in them. They're cheap. They crack. They're from China. They're made out of cheap metals. But there is one company, and it still may be made in China, but for whatever reason, this company is making them better, and it's called the Mega Home Distiller. And I have 2 people that I know of who are offering discounts if you give them my name, and that's mamapenguin.co.uk, and even though they're in Europe, they ship to America, and there's a hyphen in between Mama Penguin, between Mama and Penguin, so it's mama-penguin.co.uk. Yeah. They offer, if you give them an Andrew Norton Weber quote, they offer free next day air shipping. a discount on the price and a free TDS meter. And that's quite a deal for a mega home distiller. And I don't quote me on it. I think they're roughly around $160.
Okay.
Another person who is also selling the Nightlife Organic is Caroline Knight, who is at nightlifeorganic.com. And Knight is spelled like a knight in shining armor, spelled with a K. K-N-I-G-H-T. nightlifeorganic.com. Both of those people are selling the Mega Home Distiller. And that seems to be one of, I did a lot of testimonials. The Mega Home Countertop Distiller seems to be far and above all other countertop models of the highest quality, except for the one that you're looking at on mypurewater.com, which is a $600 one. And that is a whole other beast unto itself. $600 versus $160 to $200, but it's very high quality. It's an American company out of Lincoln, Nebraska, family owned, and doing it for 40 years. Another American-owned company is RockyMountainWaterDistillers.com. I just haven't taken the time to call them yet and see if they'll offer a discount for mentioning my name, but they also are an American company, and they sell very high-quality water distillers. They've been doing it for 30 years.
Very good.
I need to talk about carbon filters and VOCs, which are called volatile organic compounds. Nature's method of distillation in the hydrologic cycle is evaporation. This is a low-temperature thing. And the artificial method of distillation using steam distillation, there are other methods of artificial distillation using solar. People can make their own home distillers. You can build sun boxes that collect condensation, and you can collect dew every morning. There's other solar distillers that work not with solar panels, but just by letting the sun hit it, it creates evaporation and condensation. But for anybody using the high heat method of distillation, there's a problem with VOCs. Volatile organic compounds have a boiling point just under water. And so they can actually make it through the distillation process because they lift up even before the water steam does. And so if you use a distiller, a high heat distiller, without carbon filtration, you will taste terrible water. You'll think your distiller is broken, and they'll taste like plastic and chlorine because chlorine is a VOC. Now, carbon catches VOCs. This is why you cannot find a distiller company that sells distillers without carbon filtration being part of the system, because it is a known fact that VOCs make it through the distillation process. So this has been cured, and it cures it 100% if you have carbon filters. And so you'll notice on most of these countertop models that there's a little replaceable carbon filter that you're supposed to replace every 2 months or so. It depends how much you use it, because it fills up with the VOCs and it catches them. The autofill units generally come with both a pre and a post carbon filter. On the countertop models, the little carbon filter I'm talking about is a post carbon filter, meaning as it drips out of the machine, drip by drip, it falls through this little packet of carbon, and then it falls into the container, the catch.
Yeah.
So that's a post carbon filtration. But the best thing, just because to give it more chance to catch all the VOCs, is to have both pre and post carbon filters. And the autofill units always come with. The autofill units work by having a little plastic water line run to the distiller. Very simple thing for any plumber to do. It's exactly the same line that you run to a refrigerator that has a water and ice maker on the door. Very simple thing. And it always feeds the distiller with water. But they'll take a tube carbon filter about 12 inches long, and it's in line before it gets to the distiller. So the water has to go through that carbon filter first, goes into the distiller, the distillation happens, and then the autofill units have a holding tank below. And as it drips to the holding tank, it has to drip through a container of carbon. So there you've got pre and post carbon filtration, which is great. Now, when we sent our daughter to college, we sent her with a distiller, a countertop model. And we wanted her to have pre and post filtration. But the countertop models don't ever come with pre-carbon filtration. So to achieve that, we bought her a pair of half-gallon Brita Pitcher filters, which that's carbon filtration also. So we gave her two because teenagers are lazy and they don't want to wait for two. The countertop models take a gallon. We didn't have to want her to wait for a half gallon to fall through the Brita Pitcher and then have to wait for another half gallon. So we bought her two so she could fill them up at the same time. And then once they both drip through that carbon filter, she pours both of them into the distiller, bam, turns it on, and then as it distills out, it goes through the post-carbon filter. So
gotcha. So is that Mega Home one, does that one have a gallon output in the container?
Yes. Yep.
It does?
Yep.
Okay.
And they almost all, they do generally, it's a gallon every 3.5 hours. It's pretty much a standard drip rate. The autofill distillers can get into faster amounts.
I got you. Now, do you have to worry about VOCs and well water? Or is it just city water or all waters?
No, there can be. Radon is a VOC, so that could be in your groundwater. There's a whole certain petroleums could be runoff from farm pesticide residues could be in your well water.
Yeah.
So it can be anywhere, but definitely city water is just the worst.
I'm sure.
And one thing that people will be horrified by is also a lesson is you'll start to see the residue in your boiling chamber, and you need to clean it out every once in a while. But in general, distillers are the easiest method of distillation, the easiest method of water purification with the least amount of maintenance, the least amount of gold to go through to maintain the machine. You just need to clean them once in a while and change the carbon filters once in a while, which luckily carbon filters are cheap.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of people on the phone, but some of them haven't hit 1. If you guys do want to ask a question, please hit the 1 so I know that you're there and you want to ask a question. And what would you like to cover for the next 20 or so minutes until we get another caller come in? You've covered a lot of stuff about urine therapy, which is great information because not only can it save your life, but it can cure you of many diseases. And it's almost like nature's vaccination system, I guess. And then you covered the distilled water and how you need to be drinking at least a gallon a day, or a gallon to a gallon and a half per day to see the effects. And then we've covered some great places to get these distillers. What else would you like to cover?
And we covered the detox symptoms. You're saying you don't have a caller that's hit 1 yet? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of people on the line, but nobody's pushed 1 yet. So if you guys do want to ask a question, push the 1. Okay, we just got a call in that wants to talk to you. So I'm going to go ahead and take this call. Area code 864. You're on the air with Andrew Norton Weber.
Hey Glenn.
Oh, hey Robert, how's it going?
Hey Andrew, good. Yeah, I've been listening.
Oh, good.
And been quite informative. It's I just want to bring up a little thing today or this evening. I went by the convenience store and I ran into an old friend of mine, and just a quick little story here about what's going on out here, and it just blows your mind. We actually graduated the same high school together, and I asked him. I saw. I was looking for somebody the other day, and I was trying to remember who it was. I went to an obituary, and I saw this guy, and then I saw another name that really stuck out, and it's a guy that we went to high school with, and he passed away, and we just started talking. I asked him, I said, "Did you hear about so and so passing away?" He said, "No, no." Then we started talking, and it's just amazing how many people have, from our class alone, have died from cancer. I mean, we were just talking about it, and he said, "Did you not?" Oh, well, we started naming names. He named 6, 7, 8 of them I didn't even know of. And it just blows my mind. And I was telling him, because I didn't know if he was awake or not, I was telling him, I said, "Look, his mother," he even said his mother had cancer. And I asked him, I said, "Does this make, all these trillions of dollars that have gone into cancer research, okay, do you see things getting better?" And he's like, "No." I got him thinking there when I asked him that. And he wasn't really awake per se, but I think he knows that there's stuff going on in our air, in our water, and in our food. And I went ahead and threw in vaccines and flu shots and everything else. But, it just blows my mind. He named about 6, 7 people I didn't even know had passed. And, I mean, we're in our early 50s here. I mean, right at 50, and it's just amazing, that this so-called problem they're supposedly looking for the cure for, the information is here. The information is here. And, people are just so blinded by mainstream media and so brainwashed that it would maybe take years to get people to realign their thinking to what's really going on.
You're right.
This is just a comment. This is just something I'm commenting on because it just blew me away. It's just
the thing you can do is to lead by example. I learned the hard way in the beginning I learned about all this stuff and trying to tell people, but I'm only 42 and I really don't have any age symptoms to reverse. But if you start looking ridiculously younger compared to your classmates, they're going to start demanding that you tell them what you're doing. Whereas I spent time trying to force it down people's throats and they didn't want to hear it.
Right.
When you start showing at 90 days out, when the undeniable de-aging effects happen, then they'll be begging you to tell them what it'll be so much easier. So leading by example is the best way. And absolutely, I mean, that's ridiculous at 50. I know in the 50s, I mean, when I was a kid, and I'm sure you remember when you were a kid, people were living into their 80s and 90s, and they had their faculties intact still. They weren't idiots. Now people are just losing their minds at 60 years old. And so it's just simply from the toxic overload, and that's all that distilled water focuses on. And, it's funding for research. It's truth in labeling. Susan G. Komen, the search for the cure. You're funding the search, not the cure.
Exactly. And that's the way I like to wake people up. I ask them, all these trillions, and I'm not saying billions here because I'm sure it's well into the trillions now that's been spent with all the causes and all the races and walks and everybody's getting in on it. Even 5 Hour Energy is getting in on it. And you're right. I guess if you really look at the wording, the search, you're absolutely right. Not the cure, but the search. Which is money that's going where? Where is it going?
People's pockets, and they already have the cures. They've had them for decades, since the 60s. Rockefeller said that they had 98% of all cancer cures, but they weren't going to release them because people had to die of something. So when you give money to these cancer organizations, you are just funding a mechanism to rip people off and lie to them. They're not going to ever tell you about distilled water. They're not going to tell you about all the natural cures for cancer. No, because they'd be out of business.
By the way, not to interrupt, Glenn and Andrew, but, I've noticed every time, because I've been on distilled water since your first radio show you did with Glenn back. How many months ago was that?
3 or 4.
It's
3 or 4, right? Yeah, I've been on a regular distilled water myself, and what I noticed is, and I get it at Walmart, and what I noticed is it's the only one that's always empty, it seems like. So I think the word is getting out slowly but surely. because I mean, one day it was wiped clean, and there was spring water there, there was drinking water over here, it was purified water over here, and no distilled water. And so
I've been hearing that more and more. I've seen it more and more myself too, and I hear other people report it to me that sometimes distilled water is the only section that's been wiped out.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah. But I never thought I got pets, and I never thought about that though. I'm going to probably go ahead and start giving them distilled water then, if you think it will have some benefits to them, because
it has exact same benefits to them as it does to you. They're water-based creatures as well. Everything we've talked about tonight is exactly the same for them. Have you yourself noticed anything that you can report to us?
Well, one thing is I never really had body odor that much, and then I started to really put out. So I did notice that it's probably coming out of me. And on the flip side too, well, let me ask you your thoughts, because I love garlic. I think garlic's a good natural antibiotic. Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on garlic?
That's a funny one. Wow.
Okay. You hear a lot of positives about it. Yeah.
You do, and then I've actually.
I'm not trying to throw you off your specialty or anything.
It's a great question, because we want to get to all the truths. My wife and I have almost entirely stopped using it, and I'm actually.
And by the way, when I say garlic, I'm not talking about the supplements and anything that's manufactured. I'm talking about pure raw garlic. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard some people talk about that it's actually poisonous, and that it may be one of those things that, like caffeine and like Kangen water, it works via emergency detox reaction. And it is definitely suspect that it makes people smell funny.
Well, of course.
We used to use it like in our guacamole, but we just noticed that you almost cannot eat guacamole after one day of sitting in the fridge if it had garlic in it. It just gets really stinky. But when we stopped putting the garlic in it would last for days on end, and you could still eat it and have that. Normal guac doesn't last because of it. It seemed like it was the garlic. So I really don't. I don't know, but I know that we stopped eating it, and not that I felt any better from not eating, because we weren't really eating that much.
Right.
But,
I understand.
There are definitely some videos out there that are saying that it's actually deadly, and that if you get it in your bloodstream, there's something like that. It's a known ninja trick to just dip a needle into a lobe of garlic, and you can put that in your blood.
Well, I'm from a Middle Eastern background, so I grew up with it, and I found it, and I don't know if this is a mental thing with me or what, but when I feel a cold, I haven't had a cold in I don't know how long, but whenever I feel one coming on, I'll take a couple of cloves, chop them up, force them down, and usually the next day I am like boom. And like I said, I don't know if this is a mental thing that's happening, or if there's some medicinal benefits I'm getting from it, but or self-suggestion. I don't know, but it seems to work for me. Again, I wasn't trying to throw you off the water thing. I guess myself smelling, because I do eat some, and but it seemed like after the distilled water, it was more pungent than ever. And I actually quit. I used to not really put out that much odor anyway, and quit actually using underarm deodorant, because I've heard some very bad things about underarm deodorant. But now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't go around smelling bad or anything, but I just noticed after the water, it really started to smell like I've never smelled before.
Let me share this fantastic underarm deodorant. All my wife and I use now is lime juice. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Really?
We keep a lime in the fridge, obviously, and even
if so you're not talking about lime from a bottle, right? You're talking about pure lime juice.
Living lime juice, yeah.
Gotcha.
We just
Okay.
squeeze, like 5 or 10 drops in the palm of your hand, like about the size of a dime, and mash that up into each armpit. And literally, even if I've gone 12 hours and I had forgotten to use it in the beginning and I'm like stinky, you can put that on and it will not only immediately destroy the smell, but you can go for another 12 hours and you still don't smell. It's wild. And it's so cheap, simple, easy. You would think that it's going to burn your armpit or something, but it doesn't.
Well, would you agree that they're the same companies that are giving us all this crap out here are putting it also in our underarm deodorant?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's pure poison. There's not a single animal in the world that puts on, that wipes.
I don't trust. I got to the point now where I don't trust anything that you put on or you eat from any retailer, literally any bread and butter retailer out here. I've gotten very, very careful now.
Yep.
Most of it's aluminum.
Yeah, aluminum, terrible. And the body's not supposed to be clogged up. They're supposed to sweat. You're supposed to eject your toxins out of your armpits. They got antiperspirants. I could share something, a money-saving thing about food. They got all these people terrified of conventional foods versus organic food. I don't buy any organic food. I go to the farmer's market and I buy a case of apples, a case of oranges, whatever's in season. I buy
That's what we've been doing too. Yeah. Grass-fed. We've been getting grass-fed beef, which tastes totally different than your normal grocery store beef, and you can tell a difference in the taste as well too. What I've noticed is that chicken and beef now have just this very bland taste to them. They don't even have a taste anymore. It's more sound like watered down almost. And it has to be from the hormones and genetically modified things that are going on with this stuff. I mean, just don't have any flavor like it used to.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you can afford it, yes, buy organic foods, because obviously it's better to get foods without pesticides. The main ingredient in pesticides is fluoride. So yes, it's better to do that if you can afford it, but most people cannot. Most people can't even fantasize about buying organic food. It's so much expensive. And I want people's fears at ease and calm their minds about it. The distilled water in living fruits and vegetables will overpower whatever pesticides are on there. And so we just juice like crazy. And even Dr. Norman Walker, who I mentioned earlier on, his book in Living Fruits, Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Juices, he makes an excellent statement about pesticides in fruits and vegetables, in that he did studies where he would study the pulp versus the juice after juicing these things. And he found that almost in entirety, the toxins were found in the pulp. And in his words, he said it seemed as though that nutrients are allergic to pesticides and that they stay away from each other. And so when you juice things, you are, and he said it seems like that the pesticides are almost entirely only exist in the structures of fruits and vegetables, and that they are not
juice the. Okay, so when you juice, the pesticides go away somewhere, or
they remain in the pulp, the stuff that you actually toss away. So juicing is a fantastic way, of separating the garbage from the truth.
That's cool.
So that's why I don't buy
I've heard
any.
Great,
I've
heard great things about juicing. I spoke to a gentleman that was in a wheelchair who was literally on the brink of death, went back to farming, back to living a fulfilled life just simply by juicing.
And that's distilled water. That's one of nature's distilled liquids. So,
Glenn, I'm going to clear the line. I don't know if you got anybody else in the queue
we got one more call. Thanks, Robert.
Keep listening.
Yeah.
Okay, take care. Okay, Andrew.
Nice talking to you, Robert.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Yeah, one of the things that Robert told me also the other day is he noticed his thinking has been a lot clearer. I don't know if he mentioned that just then, but he is able to focus more mentally. So he did notice that immediately. And we do have another caller.
He sounded very smooth and very clear. So, yeah. All right.
Oh, just before we take our last caller here on 715, I want to ask you a couple more questions. You don't eat any meat at all, right?
No, I do, but like if I showed you my fridge right now, it looks like a rainbow. We don't buy any meat for our house. It's full. I got one drawer full of nothing but apples, oranges, and there's celery and spinaches and cilantro and on, pineapples up on the top shelf. But we're flexitarians, to be honest. And, life has still got to be fun and you got to be social. So if I went to your house tonight and you were serving ribs, I'd have ribs tonight, because life, we've got to live life, but at home, for the most part, I don't.
Sure. So you're not, and you don't, so the whole thing about protein and you have to get fats in your diet, I guess the fats can come from avocados and things like that.
Yeah, I eat lots of, I got walnuts, cashews, pine nuts. I buy those in bulk. I buy them raw. Almonds, you cannot get raw almonds in America. California passed a law that they have to be pasteurized.
That's disgusting.
In health food stores, you can find almonds that you'll say European almonds, or they say they're from Italy or France.
So you can still get the raw ones?
Those are actually raw. But even the California almonds, they'll list as raw, even though they've actually been pasteurized. So, but there are no American almonds that are raw, and the flavor is totally noticeable.
That's just pure evil that they're doing.
Yeah, on protein, even the joke about that is all these people talking about they got to get their protein. Well, how many of them are eating the meat raw? When you cook it, you kill the protein, so you're not getting any protein. It's such a joke.
Now that's something I haven't done yet. Is to try to eat raw meat. Is it better? Do you like the flavor better?
I don't. I haven't personally. Sushi is as close as I've come to it.
Yeah.
But it probably, everybody says that when they do actually get on raw food and they get far enough away from cooked foods, that cooked foods actually start to smell offensive to them, and then your taste buds have been deadened by all this toxic input of garbage. And after a while, you actually become more and more sensitive to the subtle energies and flavors in living fruits and vegetables, and they taste way better. So I would guess that it would also go that way with raw meats, that they're probably actually beautiful in flavor, when it's actually like Robert was saying, like grass-fed beef versus the commercial slave tortured, horrified garbage.
Yeah, definitely. I would only try it if it was a grass-fed and so forth. Okay, let's take our other caller. Has been very patient. Area code 715. You're on the air with Andrew Norton Weber.
Yes, Andrew. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your call tonight, because I have a friend that was trying to sell me an alkaline water purifier, and I was going back and forth, and I'm glad I waited now because I realized that that's the route I'm going to go now. And have you heard of the Hallelujah Acres? They have one, and they recommend that you take minerals with it. They have a bottle of minerals. What do you think about that?
Pure poison. It's all garbage. Find me an animal that takes bottles of minerals. And the constant excuse they use for that you need more minerals is that the dirt has been over-farmed. Mm-hmm. Well, when you juice, even if they are lacking in, if they don't have as much nutrients as they used to back in the 1930s, when you juice, you can consume way more. You can have 12 apples in one sitting just by juicing versus, you can only eat probably 2 apples in a row if you're going to eat them. Yeah. So there you can, by tenfold increase the amount of nutrients you're getting out of the supposed lack of nutrient fruits and vegetables. But the other thing to do is to just go out into your yard and harvest even your grass, as long as you're not spraying it with fertilizers. Your grass you juice. There's dandelions. Learn what local foods that you can forage. And kudzu. We've got a kudzu infestation in America because they brought it over to try to fight something. But now you see as you drive down the highways, entire miles on end of trees covered with a kudzu vine. But in Japan, they pay good money for kudzu because it's loaded with protein. It's a phenomenal plant, and it's free and everywhere. You can just pick it everywhere and juice it. So wild raw plants are off the charts with nutrients, and there's no chance of them being in over-farmed dirt because they're not sitting on the dirt at the farms. They're sitting out in the wild. They're in your backyard and across the street in the woods. So if you're concerned about not getting, just even one shot of green juice is just loaded with nutrients. Go ahead.
Well, I think what they said is when you take out everything out of the water, that it depletes the minerals out of your body, so you need to replace it with those minerals. That's
right.
what I've been told.
Yes, it's a total lie. That is in the ultimate scare you away from distilled water article. The early death comes from drinking distilled water. That's where they get that from. They just plainly state, do not drink distilled water because it will leach minerals from the body. It's an on-purpose half-truth. Pure water cannot leach living minerals from your body because they have a negative electrical charge, and so does distilled water. It's not sanes that attract, it's opposites that attract. And all the dead matter in your body, which you want to be leached out, has a positive electrical charge. And that's the simple magnetics of pure water. That's why it leaches all the bad, dead, foreign matter out of your body. And it cannot. It's physically, scientifically impossible for it to leach the good, living, organic minerals out of your body. Impossible. But they just write in that article that it'll leach minerals from your body. They purposely don't make the distinction between dead and living, or otherwise known as inorganic versus organic minerals.
Okay, and also, what about once you have the distilled water, some people will structure their water. How do you feel about that?
I think that's fine. It does seem like nature does that. It does. Urine definitely comes out structured, and rivers and things do that. But I tend not to promote that because I don't want people to feel that it's all complicated. Some people, if you want to structure it, you don't need fancy vortexing machines. Just spin it. Twirl the bottle before you drink it. It's even said that just the action of, they talk about Victor Schauberger and how he noticed that the streams and river tumble water. Well, just the act of pouring your water into a glass structures it. And also, you can pray towards it. You can put your energy, your blessing into it to structure it. The Dr. Emoto's work.
And I guess too, turning it to the right, what the energy, like when you flush the toilet or whatever, it'll turn it, because of that, the energy field that you tap into, it will just automatically pull it in that direction. So I imagine if you would just put something in there and just kind of mix it around, it would tap into that energy field. It's just like, if like you're twirling in a circle, how you tap into that energy field.
Yeah.
So I imagine it'd be the same thing with the water then if you turn it, or
just like the whirling dervishes.
Right, exactly. That's what I was thinking of. And I just wanted to make one more comment too. When I was at the grocery store the other day with my daughter and I was looking at water, they had distilled water with fluoride added to it.
That's nasty.
I love it too when they have the baby water with fluoride added to it.
That's criminal.
The joke reads they added fluoride to water, which is good for your teeth, but babies don't even have teeth. So I tend not to say much about structured water because I don't want people to feel that they get overwhelmed and that it's all complicated. And it's generally, you can talk about the energy field, but for the average zombie that's trying to wake up, it's just too much of a bridge to make that. Just distillation is enough of a step, and none of the testimonials I've received, almost 99% from people who aren't going through any vortexing or structuring. It does seem like it could probably increase the quality of it, but it definitely does not need to be done. People are completely flushing their body of diabetes, cancer, everything without doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I have one of these pens that, it has that energy field in it, too. So, that would probably be something, too, I could just use if I felt like it, too. But I really appreciate all your information.
Yeah, that's true. I have seen those.
Yeah, so, but thank you for all your information, and it makes total sense, and I always pay attention to what resonates in my heart, and everything you're saying, definitely does. So thank you for your information.
Thank you for the call.
Sure, and thank you, Glenn, for yes, thank you so much for having these calls. They're great, and I have the utmost respect for Stu Webb and everything that you're doing, because I really believe that all of you are true patriots, not these fake people out there. So I just, my heart goes out to you, and you're the real heroes as far as I'm concerned. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, you just made my week.
It's to help yourself, because this is a type of selfishness that goes beyond you, and this is a selfishness. When you take care of yourself, it helps the whole planet. So I really, really appreciate you taking the information and running with it.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you for that call, and you just made my week. I tell you what, it's nice to hear that. We don't hear that all the time. I know a lot of people do appreciate what we do, but it is nice to hear that. Really made my day there. Well, Andrew, you put together a heck of a show for us, and I want to let everybody know that we'll definitely have an article up, and I'd like for everybody to check the website tomorrow before lunchtime, and I'll get that article up with all the information and the show, and I want people just to spread it everywhere, because we got to get the truth out about this stuff. And you've done such a wonderful job, and you're not a doctor, I'm not a doctor, but I know when something works, and I know that this stuff has helped my blood pressure more than anything else I've ever tried, and I've only been doing it 3 or 4 months, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to do in the next 3 months. So hats off to you, Andrew, because you did it, buddy. You really got some great information tonight for the people, and they're going to go share it, just like Barry said he would go share it through making CDs of the program and everything else like that. So I really appreciate you, buddy, because I know you don't get paid for this, just like I don't get paid, but we just do it because it's the right thing to do, and that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, exactly. And I thank you for having me on, because I couldn't do it without you. I couldn't spread the knowledge without you letting me speak to all your listeners. And it's obvious to both of us that it's not money that we're after. We want our planet back. We want paradise on Earth back. And we know it's right there. We know the planet's fine. It's just a bunch of psychopaths destroying it all. And so that will be a reward far beyond money. And I think even we will vanquish the need for dollar bills, pieces of paper for currency. So another thing animals don't do is they don't need economies to exist. They all get along in harmonious, beautiful nature. And that's what we're aiming to get back. So
well, go ahead and give out your website again and any other information you want to do, and we're going to put this one in the books. Another great show on Nsearch Radio. So anything you'd like to say as we close out here?
Okay, my website with all the collected water knowledge, which is free and doesn't require any memberships, is AquariusTheWaterBearer.com. It's spelled just like the constellation in the sky. My personal art website is AndrewNortonWeber.com. My email is contact@AndrewNortonWeber.com. And if you want to support this work, I suggest you buy painting from my wife, Susie Scarborough, and it can be seen at SusieScarborough.com. Susie is spelled with an S-U-Z-Y, and Scarborough is spelled like the fair, S-C-A-R-B-O-R-O-U-G-H. It will probably please you to know that the entirety of this work that you have listened to tonight has been funded entirely by a female painter. All of this money, all the $50,000 that has been spent to gather this knowledge has come 100% from the sale of her paintings. And
wow,
she's a phenomenal artist, and her paintings will blow you away. And I think that's about it.
Well, thank you, Andrew. And if anybody can, go definitely support his wife and get one of her paintings. And we'll have you back on the show again probably in a few more months, so we get this next crop of people to get out there, guys. Either get a distiller or buy that distilled water. Try it out for 3 or 4 months, and I promise you, you're going to see weight loss. You're going to see thinking clearer. If you got any other issues, you're going to start seeing them improve. And like you said, let's get those nutrition instead of these bottles of supplements and these bottles of drops and everything for the minerals. Instead, just juice. Just do some juicing, and that will replace any of the bottles or droppers or anything else that you think you might need. And you're the proof of that, Andrew.
Dan, people start becoming water distiller distributors. Start distributing them like crazy. Drive the prices down. Be the one in your neighborhood to offer them for sale. You can go door to door these things. And if you start to drink it and you start to get the undeniable 3 months out visible results, it'll be so easy to go door to door. And take a photograph of yourself now. Take a photograph now, because there's nothing like, a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you can show a photograph of yourself looking decrepit and gray-haired and tired and with glasses and wrinkles, but then you're standing there at the door and you're glowing and your skin is beautiful and moist and dewy, and your wrinkles have been pushed away and you've got brand new colorful hairs coming back on your head, you'll have so much luck selling distillers, and you can make money and you can help wake up the planet at the same time.
All right. Well, thanks again, Andrew, and we'll have you back again real soon. And everybody look for that article. You're going to find it up on project.nsearch.com. And that's all we've got for tonight. And we'll talk to you real soon, Andrew.
Okay, buddy. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Take care, buddy.